Thank you. That's excellent. Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. It is exactly 6 o'clock, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Peaslee Building Committee. My name is Erica Hall, and I am the chair. Welcome everyone tonight. On our agenda is our owner's project manager interviews, and before we start our first interview, just a couple of technical notes to go over for our team here. So each of you has received a scoring sheet with the predetermined questions that have been sent to each firm. And so the firms are coming in alphabetical order, and we'd like you to score the forms tonight. After all of the interviews, all of these forms will be collected and scored and aggregated, and the results will be published to us tonight. And then I would welcome a motion based on the results of the scores for OPM selection following the interviews. Just some technical notes. I have helpers in the room tonight. You got voluntold. So first of all, we have 3 questions that we pre-prepared at our last meeting that are live. So those questions have been assigned. Just going to do a quick check to make sure everybody remembers their question. Who's asking our live question number 1? That would be Diana. Who's asking our live question number 2? Oh, no. You can fight over it, but you know, okay. And who's asking our live question number 3? Thank you, Lauren. And then we also have a timekeeper, which is Tristan. So I have asked Tristan to we have half an hour for our OPM presentations. Welcome, Rob.
Yes.
Unless you would like to be an owner's project manager for the town of Northborough, I recommend you sit over there.
Possibly next time.
Okay. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
So Tristan will keep time. If you remember, and per our our RFS, we have half an hour for the presentation, 15 minutes for a live Q&A. So we will be keeping time. And then prior to the half-hour clock, I'll just do a brief interview. So we'll do the same interview every time. And I'd like everyone to just say your name. The OPMs have already received your roles and the list of the committee members, so they just really need to put names with faces tonight before the Q&A. Are there any questions tonight from any of the esteemed committee members present? We also have some folks joining us remotely via a hybrid meeting. So I see that we have a voting member in Michael Tejan. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. All right, so it is 6:03. How does the group feel about determining if our first team is here and ready to go a little early? Yes? All right. Could you help see if our first team is Colliers? So if they're ready, we can sort of get them set up with their presentation before the clock starts.
And then do we want them, instead of having them stand around until 6:15, we start them?
We can start when we're ready.
Yeah. Give ourselves a little more time between.
Yeah. If they're ready, yes. So we have. The only thing is they have a microphone there that picks up these 3 seats, and they have a podium microphone that picks up the presenter. So they can maybe rotate out if they want to change presenter. It was a very intense AV setup process for today. Just don't envy our colleagues at Northborough Cable.
We're going to give it a shot.
Welcome, come on in. Right here.
Thank you. Probably going to need 2 more seats.
Okay, welcome. So we'll have one of you at the podium,
Okay.
and then you brought another seat. We'll need one more chair.
Great.
Okay, thank you. I think, right, or do we have enough? 4 plus
We have
1?
5.
Okay, good. So I think we're good. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for coming.
We have a few handouts.
Yeah, we have a couple things to pass out, then we'll settle in.
Thank you very much.
Hello, how are you?
So just a note,
Thank you.
we've got 2 mics set up for you tonight. So this microphone here will pick up anyone who's sitting at the table.
Okay.
And then the podium mic will pick up the podium. See, your thumb drives are, keeps getting your.
Yeah, we're working on it.
We don't have one of those clickers, but the keyboard will advance the slides.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll be able to do it from here.
Right, there's a keyboard right in front of
You're
you,
gonna have Dave help you guys.
so that should advance the slides.
Get it set up.
Yeah.
Okay. Just like regular.
Right,
Left
exactly,
and right,
forward
forward
arrow,
and
yep,
backwards.
yes.
Go up and down to your deck, right?
Well, right, yes, I don't know what happened. Yes.
Nobody does. Nobody's tried to do that yet.
It's good to have somebody who knows how to operate.
I would not want this job, I just think it's a lot of pressure. We have a live, hybrid, live streamed meeting / presentation and process, that's a lot of tech.
You guys are standard, you want to sit?
Oh.
Powerful. It's on the D drive, you just had it.
Yeah, I know, I'm trying to find,
But then we can't open PowerPoint.
Right, yeah. That's why.
That's the one. Sorry about this.
No, I'm just, yeah, the perk of going first.
Yeah, that's making something happen.
sorry.
You can get these starts from PowerPoint.
I didn't bring it home.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Do you, you don't have a laptop?
Yeah, do we have it as a PDF?
Yeah, no, I brought, there's a PowerPoint, but I have my laptop. But
Yeah.
If you have your laptop, you can connect HDMI into the touch view as an extra screen.
Okay, that'd be great.
I apologize. Thank you
Oh,
for
no, all right.
your patience. Thanks to everyone.
It's technology,
Yes.
that's what happens.
It's great when it works.
Well, I was hoping the viewers at home would have something riveting to watch.
What we're looking at here.
Yep.
Old school.
Yep. Yep.
Don't have a very long cable.
Should we move the podium, Dave? Or we can bring the screen closer? Yep.
Oh,
Do you need an adapter HDMI to, or
No, that laptop chops up these
Is the building one you use?
no?
The only problem is we won't be able to get that, display that on the system.
Okay,
It is what it is.
okay.
We'll leave the copies.
I said, well, we'll be able to see it, right?
Should be.
Yep. Thank you, Dave. Okay, so this is a copy of it.
Yeah, and we can send it.
Okay. Hopefully we can pull it up here. We're still within time.
I do.
Presentation mode, I was gonna do that here. Get it up here. Wonder if you can do this. One second.
oh, let's go.
Is this new news?
It's not showing it
I don't know the install date, but we're not breaking in the equipment, contrary to what it might look like.
So we are
We are up here,
trying to,
reading up here.
it's not. Oh, maybe it just wasn't plugged in. There we go. It just wasn't plugged in all the way. It's something. Duplicate.
Thank you. Dave, can we just verify that we're live streaming?
You are.
Okay, we are.
I can see this on the screen. So,
Okay. So in the interest of time, while we just sort of finish this setup,
Actually.
thank you for your patience, everyone. So my name is Erica Hall, and I'm the chair of the Peaslee Building Committee. So welcome on behalf of our committee. Thank you for being here tonight. I would like our team briefly to say their names, just so you can put a face with a name. So I'll start with myself, so Erica Hall.
Diana Nicholas.
Lauren Bailey Jones.
Kevin Biersch.
Rob Tomasetti.
Sean Durkee.
Greg Martin.
Becky Pellegrino.
Tristan Doesn't.
Keith Lavoy.
Sean Bennett.
And we have some members joining remotely. Michael,
Mike Keegan.
thank you. And Jason,
Oh, I'm Jason Little, I'm the town's finance director.
thank you. Anyone else remote? Thank you. So before we get started, a couple more technical notes, but I think we got our biggest hurdle out of the way. So this meeting is live streamed, so your microphone is right there, as well as a microphone on the podium. And for us participants, we have a microphone that's picking up us as well, so just speak clearly because we are recorded and live streamed. And then we've allotted 30 minutes for presentation, 15 minutes for live Q&A. And I have a lovely volunteer over here who's offered to keep time. So when I stop talking, it's your turn. The 30-minute presentation will start. Tristan will give us a 5-minute and 1-minute warning, and then we'll go into our Q&A, 15 minutes.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We're ready.
All set?
Yes, welcome.
Good evening. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, but I think we worked through it as best as we could. I just want to give you a little bit of background of the company. We are Collier's project leaders. We started as Strategic Building Solutions in 1996, and we started just for this particular type of work. We're OPMs basically on educational facilities, and that's been our focus for going on 30 years now next year. So that's been our drive, and our goal is to do that. We do have registered architects and engineers and construction people on site, but it's important to know that we don't design anything and we don't construct anything. Our focus is being advocates for you and your technical resources. So with that said, I'd like to introduce some of the players here.
Okay.
I'm hoping so.
And I wonder if the keyboard on the podium will work.
Alan, how about the keyboard on the podium?
Keyboard is no longer on the podium.
Okay, this is
Oh,
There we go.
Here we go. Good. It's on this keyboard?
No, it's on this one. I'm just doing it at the same time.
Okay. I think we're safe. Don't get confused by all the faces here. We do work in teams, and what I want to explain is that the top 4 people are basically the core team you have here before you today, with the addition of 1 additional team member, and the bottom are the supporting people. I'm Alan Minkus. I'm the project director here, and my role would be actually to manage the project from start to finish, and also make sure that all the resources for the company are available for this job from start to finish. Working with me is Tim Tim is an associate director, and he will be sharing the workload with me as a director. And why we thought it was important to bring Tim is 13 years ago, Tim and I were the OPMs on the Lincoln Street Elementary School. So we've been through it, we know the building, we know some of the good things and bad things, and we had a very successful project and want to make this a successful project for you as well. Also with us tonight is Adam Zalesio. Adam is a senior project manager, and Adam is very much an MSBA guru, and he knows all the procedures and all the policies with the MSBA from start to finish. He will be your guide and your advocate through the MSBA process from start to finish. And working with Adam will also be Todd Ashford here tonight. Todd is a project manager with us, and he'll be doing all the day-to-day activities as far as the OPM needs are concerned for the project. Down on the support level people we have is Nick Pimentel. Nick is the construction rep for the project. He will not really be involved too much until construction starts, which the MSBA process is about 3 years from now. It is very protracted, but he will be doing document reviews and constructability reviews on the project as it moves along. Also, the next person over is Sarah Baston. Sarah is with our commissioning group. We have a commissioning group and also with an energy group for our firm. And she had a family issue tonight that she could not be with us, so we asked Mike Dykens to fill in for her, so Mike will be speaking in her place tonight. And then last but not least is Tao Nguyen. Tao's a financial analyst with us, and she's an expert in the ProPay system. So we get everything coded, get everything submitted in a timely fashion. What we don't want to do is use your money. We want to use the state's money as much as possible, and that means getting those requests for reimbursement in as soon as possible. So that's going to be her role as we move along. Up or down? Over the right.
Okay.
Now, you might be asking, okay, with all these people, who am I supposed to call when I need somebody? Well, that's going to be Adam D'Alessio. He will be the senior project manager. If you have any questions, it'll go through him. He'll get back responses. He'll bring it to our attention if he doesn't know the answer. We'll keep things going that way, so you'll never have to wonder who to contact in the company, because we are 139 people. We have other people working behind the scenes here, but you saw the 7, 8 people that are going to be the main players on the project from start to finish. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Tim to talk about some of our previous experiences.
Thanks, Alan. So first off, we're excited to be here. You know, as Alan mentioned, we worked on Lincoln Street a number of years ago, successful project. So we're thrilled to be back in front of you guys with potential to work on Peaslee. We heard about Peaslee, but even back then, that it was maybe the next project up and down the road a little ways, and so here we are. But we do bring to the table a lot of experience, especially working with the MSBA. So working with the MSBA throughout the Commonwealth, you can see some of these yellow dots that try to represent the general location of some of the clients we've worked with. And those are either elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, VOTEC schools. But you see that they're kind of spread out from the Cape all the way up to North Adams across the whole Commonwealth. The red flags indicate our offices. So we have an Agawam office. That's where this team is being based out of, is the Agawam office. But we also have a Boston and Providence offices that we can draw on for extra support, so relatively close by. You can see below some of the more recent projects that we've covered, highlighted in yellow is Lincoln Street. But those are some of the recent ones, and we'll talk a little bit more about a few of those in the next slide. But to have this much MSBA experience, you know, a district may work with the OPM maybe once every 5 or 10 years on a project, but the MSBA is working with us constantly. So we are in conversation with the MSBA for a different project or a different thing almost daily. So I guess what's really important to show is that they understand what we're going to deliver as far as what kind of deliverables we're going to do, how we're going to help you through the process, how we're going to manage the architect and the contractor when they come on board. They have a comfort level with us and what we're going to be able to deliver for both them and for you. Okay, it worked. Okay, so obviously I didn't put up the Lincoln Street School because you've all seen it. Just a little refresher on that school. It was a phased occupied renovation. We had modulars out on the front lawn connected with a corridor for swing space on that project. Finished ahead of schedule and under budget. So a great project. Very similar, obviously, to Peaslee. It was built in the early 60s. It has major needs as far as infrastructure, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, so forth, and space needs for your current program, educational program. So we brought up a couple of these, and all of these are recent projects, and they all share the same issues that Peaslee does. Older buildings that they're coming from, need for infrastructure improvement, need to update the spaces so that they can be used for today's education and tomorrow's, for the next 50 years. The MSBA is looking for a 50-year building. So on the upper right, you have the Mountain View School in East Hampton. That was a consolidation of 3 elementary schools in town. They were all 100 years old. And their middle school, which was built in the mid-70s or early 70s, which was open plan and had some issues with it. So their preferred option was to go with a single building on the site of their middle school. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the logistics of working in a tight environment like that on the next slide. But on the upper right, you have the East Meadow Elementary School. This is in Granby. Their preferred option was to do an ad reno one of their existing elementary schools in town. What we did was built an addition right in front of the building, and this building actually shared a campus with their middle high school. So in the end, all the students were brought onto the same campus. Lower right is Templeton Elementary School. Again, a consolidation. There was 2 elementary schools. They brought the 5th grade over from the middle school. They brought kindergarten in from yet another school in town. So it was built on one of their existing sites because they had trouble locating additional property. So there was some issues, and we worked with the town and really got the word out to explain the situation. But that one, number of schools all on a tight site in the center of town. And finally, Gardner Elementary School. That was a consolidation of 2 elementary schools in town. Both of those schools were built as high schools. So you can imagine they're pretty old. They didn't really logistically work for early elementary education. So that was a new building built on a wooded lot adjacent to their high school and middle school, current high school and middle school property, so creating kind of a campus environment. Some of these were quite big, so reducing the building down to smaller sections so that you're losing your neighborhood school with maybe some of these consolidations, but by making kind of separate sections within a bigger building was a way to keep that small feel community for your earliest learners. I'm showing this is Mountain View Elementary in East Hampton. I'm showing this really just to talk about logistics of working on an existing site or an occupied site, whether that site is an existing building that you're building adjacent to, or you're working within an existing facility that you're doing it in phases like we did with Lincoln Street. But it really comes down to communication and planning, and really making sure that you're getting all the word out, whether that's power shutdowns or traffic pattern changes or quiet hours for MCAS testing. It really comes down to those 2 items, because really it's about allowing you to provide education and keeping everybody safe on site. So this is kind of an extreme where the building on the right was the old middle school and the building on the left was the new construction. This was built during COVID. And then you can see on the lower right-hand side, once the existing building was demolished, we rebuilt some parking and recreated the fields. But it can be done safely, whether it's, again, a new building or an ad reno and phased in an existing building. It just takes a lot of coordination and planning. So our understanding of your project, we do, again, have an understanding based on our experience with Lincoln. You've had a building that's really served you well, served the town well for 60 plus years, but its infrastructure is aged, and you have to put in a major investment just to get it up to today's standards, which is quite a challenge with the new energy codes and so forth. There would be a lot of effort to do that. But then you're also faced with challenges about how to deliver education for the next 50 years, whether it be breakout space, whether it's community space, project-based learning, all those different activities that you really don't have those spaces in your existing facility. So the other ones we kind of know about. You have a nice site. It potentially could be used for a new building or as an ad reno space and stay in the same property. But that'll come. We'll understand that as we start to dig into it and understand wetlands and setbacks and all those different details that might direct the project in one direction or another. And with that, I'll turn it over to Adam to talk a little bit about project approach.
Great, thank you, Tim. Thank you again. My name is Adam D'Alessio, Senior Project Manager. So thank you all again for having us here today. So project approach. So as Alan mentioned before, that as an OPM, we are your guide and advocate throughout the entire process. That starts from designer selection. That's one of the first things that we'll get into if we were to be selected as an OPM. Bringing on a designer, going through that process of reference checks and making sure that we get the right designer for this project. All the way through construction and closeout and even the final audit phase. We're going to be there along the way to guide you through this, answer questions, and making sure that we're hitting our timelines when we need to be. And that's where our experience comes in, as Tim mentioned before too, is that we understand the timelines for the MSBA. We know what needs to be submitted and when it needs to be submitted. It is a very prescribed program, but there are a lot of forms that go along with it and templates, and the submissions have to be just right or it gets kicked back and then we're losing time. So it's our job to make sure that the design team and ourselves have that submission completed and put through. Along the way too, there's a lot of players in this game. There's us, there's the town, there's a contractor when they come on, and designer and consultants. There's so many people involved in this project that you want one main point of contact for everybody. And so that's where I would come in and our team would come in, that everything would come through us. We make sure that the flow of communication and information flows to us and then from us as well. That way, there's one point person throughout the entire project, and that makes sure that we're all receiving the same information. We'll make sure that the key stakeholders are getting all the information that they need, and we can get the responses in a timely manner. Another large part of this is going to be the community outreach piece of it too, which I'll get into in a few minutes. But all these pieces that come together, it is a lot to think of at this point, but that's what we're here for with our experience, to make sure that we're here every step of the way to make sure that what we can bring to the table is that experience. So what we did here is we put together a very high-level Peaslee Elementary School timeline. This is for, the MSBA, they work in modules. So this is from Module 2, which we're in now, through Module 5. And that goes from forming the project team, what you're doing now, all the way through funding the project. So this schedule here is just over 2 years. It's 26 months. So we're in the Module 2 now, so you're selecting the OPM. Next would be the designer selection. And then you move into your feasibility, which is about a 9-month duration for that. And so the feasibility is really where you start to look at different options. And the MSBA is going to require us to review, they want to have a code upgrade estimate done. They want to have an addition renovation study done. And they also want to have a new building, new construction study done as well. So they want us to look at all those different options, and so that's done during the feasibility study. And then at the end of feasibility, we're going to do our preferred option. So after we do that review with the design team and the committee, we come up with a preferred option, and that gets submitted to the MSBA. And that's where, at the end of that, is where we set our total project budget and scope. And so that's a big piece of this project, where setting the project budget is something that's going to carry to the end of this project. So from there, you move into schematic design and then funding the project. But again, that's a 26-month project timeline that we have put together for this particular project. But again, we'll be there every step of the way to guide you through that. I mentioned community outreach. During this feasibility schematic design, this is a very, very big part of this. One of the most important pieces, because to go through those 2 years of work and dedication to this project, the last thing we want to do is go to a town vote and have it get a no vote. So along the way, starting from the very beginning, we're going to work with you to help come up with community forums, visioning sessions. There's so many different styles that we've done in the past. We've done virtually, we've done them in person. Different times of day helps out. You have folks that work during the day, so we do them at night, or vice versa. You have folks that either work or don't go out at night that want to have a function during the day. So we make sure that we want to hit everybody that we possibly can during this community outreach. And we also do help set up websites, and we help with FAQ pages, which is super helpful to have out to the public. And we've done flyers in the past. We've done surveys. Again, as much as we can do to be transparent with this project and make sure that we keep the community involved, not only just kind of giving out information, we also want to get some feedback from the community. That's what the community forums are for. We want to ask questions and see what people's thoughts are and what their concerns are with the project. So that way we can prepare for them, or design a building that, maybe there's a concern that we don't know about. So these are super important and will have to be done throughout the entire design phase in order to make sure that we're keeping on top of this. And I'll turn it over to Todd for some pre-construction talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. So as we get into we have the idea in place, right? We know we're building a school, so how do we get to that point? So a couple of things that we really keep an eye on and manage for you is the financial budget management, financial management of the project. So we're really looking early on in the project, how can we best use the money? So we really don't want to go through a change order process. So we do design reviews. We do design reviews at 50%, 80%, 90% of drawings. We're really just looking through each thing to see what we can identify that won't become a problem later on in the project and cost money. Another a piece of how we operate is the bid strategy and
Move closer to the mic, please. Thank you.
Another piece is the bid strategy and a real main focus on quality assurance, right? This is another way for us to focus on the quality of the project without really being out of the ground yet. We're reviewing documents, we're reviewing construction documents, reviewing the feasibility study. How can we make the site work for the building that you want to put up? We're focusing always on the schedule, right? The last thing we want to do is be behind schedule at any point because it just makes the conclusion of the project difficult. So we're really just keeping an eye on the whole thing. Cost, quality, and schedule is our main mantra of the project, to put it the easiest. Once we, have a plan in place, a building that everybody's comfortable with, we get into the construction phase. This is a lot where you will see our colleague Nick Pimentel, our boots on the ground guy, where he really gets involved here, just really keeping an eye on a day-to-day, the process of the day-to-day construction, right? He's literally walking the halls and making sure that everything's done correctly. I am making sure that the quality assurance is at the utmost. We're constantly reviewing the drawings, making sure that you got exactly what you paid for in the project. We're just making sure that everything is exactly how you ordered it, and really just keeping an eye on the whole big picture to make sure that everything is on the up and up. A big one is the schedule management. As I said earlier, we can't have a successful project if we're falling behind. So just constantly keeping that at the forefront to make sure that we get your building done and delivered on time. And the closeout phase. Closeout phase is one of the most important, I would say. It's the thing that we probably focus on right from day one. The whole entire reason that we're on this project is to deliver a building that works for your program. So we are looking at the finish line right at the start of the project. How we do that is maintaining the punch list log, making sure that you have all of your training manuals, your owner manuals to all your equipment, and most importantly, your training. Last thing you want is a building turned over, a bunch of excited teachers and students, and nobody knows how to use any of the features. So training is a big piece of what we coordinate and make sure that you're heavily involved in that process as we turn the building over to you. Another big piece of that is the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. It's really some of the most exciting things that the students will see is what desk they're sitting at, what basketball they'll be using. So, we really do take a hands-on approach to that, bringing on the correct vendors, making sure that you, once again, got exactly what you paid for when the equipment is delivered. And with that, we have Mike to talk a little bit.
Thanks. Hello, everybody. Mike Dykins. One of the things that Colliers brings to every project, which is a little bit unique, that you might not see with a lot of other OPM teams, is a complete technical support team. So as we pointed out at one of the earlier slides, there were those three folks on the bottom. I'm one of those folks. I'm a mechanical engineer. My expertise is mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and we give these guys all the technical support that they're going to need to not only make sure that the building was designed properly, but when it's time to turn these systems on, we're going to make sure that these buildings and all the systems within the building operate properly. This technical support doesn't just get shared with my team. I'm going to share that with this whole town. When it's time to occupy the building, we're going to make sure you have all the training programs that you're going to need. You're going to have systems in this building that you might not already have in some of your newer buildings. There's going to be VRF refrigeration systems, digitized automatic control systems. There's going to be all types of things that you're going to have to get a hang of. My job is going to be to make sure that all of that stuff gets handed over to you folks, and we're going to provide continued support to make sure that it remains as a premium, highly efficient system. So one of the other items that we wanted to make sure we're focusing on also is the efficiency. So we've got systems efficiencies, the resiliency that we're building in, and are we getting close? Are we getting close? I'm sorry. No, we're not, okay. So we're looking at basically to make sure all the major goals for any new construction project, we want to make sure we're hitting all those major goals. And more importantly, that when you guys finally have control of the building, that you're going to be able to take advantage of all those benefits and features. So with that, why don't we hand it off? Who's next? Some of the programs, I know we're going to do kind of a half and half on this one, but some of the options that might be available to you, not only through the MSBA, but we have other funding sources. And on this one, I think I'm going to hand it over to Tim to tap into a little bit. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. So the MSBA used to have a restriction on additional funding. If you were to receive additional funding from another source outside the MSBA would, in essence, shrink their grant by the amount you're getting from somebody else. The MSBA has changed that, especially with this Inflation Reduction Act. It's currently still up and running, so we're hoping that it continues. But that really would help offset the cost if you were to do something like a geothermal system that is more upfront cost, but cheaper operationally for the life of the building. So that might be an option that you could look to help offset that additional cost. The Mass Save program has been around for a long time, and that's something that will continue. And we can help and work with you to identify other grant opportunities, or if you were to receive other grants, how to manage the finances and the reporting for those, because that's actually a bigger job than actually getting the grant, I think sometimes, is reporting back how you're utilizing those funds. So this is one of those things that is not at the end, it's at the beginning where we really started, because Mike and his team are going to be helping us analyze systems early on. The cheapest time to make a change on something is before you've gone too far in the drawings. So if it's just kind of a bubble diagram stage, that's really, it doesn't cost anything to redraw it. If you start getting further and further in design, bigger changes start to get more costly or could have a bigger impact on schedule or other things. So by going through some of these analysis of life cycle cost or of which system should we go for just a typical gas-fired boiler, or should we do something a little hybrid or something more energy efficient? Not all green technology is right for all buildings, so we want to make sure that we're picking out the right one. And then during design reviews, making sure that those are designed appropriately, and again, Mike's team will be looking at that, because with the new energy codes, the cost impact on what you're building, you want to make sure you're getting that in the end, that you're actually getting what you're, as Todd said, you're getting what you're paid for, you're getting what was designed. You know, you're going to make some tough decisions through the course of the design, because you can't have everything. And so some of these decisions that you have to make, may prevent you from doing something else that you might want to do if you had some extra money. So we want to make sure that you're getting the full value of those things during the design process. And then in the end, again, the Inflation Reduction Act, a tax incentive program that you get after the project is done, unlike the MSBA where you're getting reimbursement throughout the process on a monthly basis. So with that, I guess we'll open it up to any questions that you may have. If there's something that we talked about that maybe you want us to elaborate on, or any other additional questions, we'd be happy to tackle those.
Thank you very much. So we can take whatever remaining time we have, thank you timekeeper, and add it to our 15-minute Q&A. And that timer can start now. We'll give a 5-minute and a 1-minute, and we have some prepared questions for you.
Great.
Tristan, are you ready? Okay, thank you.
So, have you at Colliers ever experienced a failed town vote? And if so, what role did the OPM play in that process? And what lessons can be drawn from a failed vote?
There wasn't on any of our projects, but there was one a number of years ago.
Right. This team has worked on most of the projects that we represented with our experience, and we have never lost a town vote. The one that did lose was in Berkshire Hills, up in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. It's on its third go-around. It failed twice, and right now it's being designed again and going out to the voters this fall. So, and that was because of the two different towns and two different economies within those towns, and their income levels and things like that, and wanting one group wanting it and the other group not wanting it just because of the cost of the projects. We were the OPM on that. We did do community outreach. We did try to garner support. What I like to say in these projects is you always get 1/3 that wants the project, 1/3 that doesn't want the project, and what you're trying to do is convince the third in between that it's the right thing to do. And if you can do that, it will pass. But in the case of Stockbridge, which, like I said, none of us are working on, it did not happen. So, and that goes back, that probably started 10 years ago when that first failed.
So just to clarify, sorry, you were the OPM the very first time years ago when it didn't pass?
We were the OPM twice on it.
You were, okay.
And it failed twice.
Okay.
It's now with a third OPM and a third design team, and that's the one that's going to vote in fall. So, you know, fingers crossed that they get their new school this year. Maybe it's time, maybe it's worn out after 10 more years, but that was our one failure that I can admit to.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Sure.
We have been in OPM where a project previously failed in the town, and we came in and did a slightly different project, but then it passed overwhelmingly. So I think, you know, we'll learn from the lessons of the previous people who have presented something and understand why maybe it didn't pass, or maybe the information they felt like a finished design was presented without really bringing the people along the way with these public information sessions, so they hear the questions that are being asked, they hear how the story is evolving, and so then it's kind of a natural conclusion that, yeah, they need this and this is why.
Into the mic.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Durkin.
Ready? Tell us about a time when you struggled with the building project. How did you resolve conflicts with any of the parties involved?
Well, we have one recently, a successful project for the town. We did have a contractor that was difficult to manage and work with, but with the support of the building committee, they supported us keeping the pressure on the contractor to deliver what they were required to deliver by contract. We kind of take the approach of firm but fair. Look, we're not going to ask you for things that aren't in the drawings. We're not going to ask you for something that's not part of your contract. But what we will do is ask you to deliver what is in your contract. And so the project finished and opened in time for the school year, but there was a lengthy punch list. It was a COVID job, so you can kind of understand that there were some bumps along the way. But in the end, the project team stuck with it and finished it out. The owner was happy with the delivered product. The contractor didn't necessarily get a very good DCAM score.
What challenges do you foresee in the next year or two that are specific to school building projects, and how would you plan to address those challenges?
Well, I think funding is critical, just because the economy's been very up and down. As we came out of the pandemic, we hit a period of extreme escalation in costs. We don't think that escalation will really be our main issue going forward, but now it's tariffs and maybe some other things that impact costs down the road, and it's changing daily. So when we do go out for cost estimates, we go to two different estimators. The architect will hire an estimator, we'll hire an estimator. We don't do it in-house because we want someone that's all they do. They know the market, they know the commodities in different parts of the state, different, out in North Adams, very different than, South Boston. So, and then we get those two teams together and review the documents. We're not looking for them to come up with the same number. We're looking to see that they've come up with the same scope, same amount of steel, same amount of brick. They may vary a little bit on their labor rates and their unit costs for materials, but we'll have a pretty good sense. And we do that multiple times through the course of the design so that number one, we're staying on budget, but number two, we have a pretty good confidence level that we're going to come in on budget at bid day.
Thank you. That concludes our pre-prepared questions. Do you have any other remarks? You have some remaining time.
I was just going to say, if there's anything in those questions that you had previously prepared, if we didn't get a complete answer out of our presentation, we'd be happy to follow up with additional information.
Are there any clarifying questions from this body? Tristan?
Just a question on, as we're going through the design phase and comparing the life cycle cost of things, looking at first cost versus, over the course of, installation plus the maintenance and operation of the school. What do you do in terms of assisting the design team and us as a town to make intelligent decisions on, because that obviously has a very big effect on the project budget up front.
Yeah, Mike, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I would say you're spot on about educating you with the information we have. I mean, our role is to provide you the information so you can make an educated choice. And some of that's going to be, okay, well, these are the pros and cons of this system, the pros and cons of that system. But when it comes down to the nuts and bolts, and
I think you just stole the words.
okay, but that's really our goal, is to guide you, to help guide this process for you. And we've seen different things. A lot of times a design engineer will, in their office, they're designing a system, but they don't get out and see it in operation all that much. Mike's team, as commissioning agents, they see it coming out of construction and into operation, and then they understand the tweaks that need to be made, once you're in the building. Okay, this side of the building's in the sun, it's maybe a little too warm, or this side's in the shade, or, whatever the issue is, until you live in the building and you tweak it a little bit. But as far as the overall main systems go, they'll be able to bring that experience into helping you choose a system that's appropriate for your building.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I'd like to add to that just a little bit. We have a current client right now that thought they wanted to have a campus. It's a tech school, and they thought it'd be nice to have a whole lot of little buildings around there. But working with the architect and looking at life cycle, we're saying that the most economical and maintenance worthy building is going to be a solid building in a rectangular square fashion. And so we're leading the district in making a choice not to go with a whole lot of little satellites around there that all have 4 walls and a roof, and it's going to cost a fortune to run over the course of time. And it takes a while because they had that vision, but we're trying to express to them that vision is going to cost you money long term, and you have a lot of. It's a regional school, so they have a lot of people that they have to answer to, not just one town and by themselves.
Any other questions, clarifying questions?
I just have a quick one on your challenges of funding. How do you ensure right from the start that everyone tries to be as cost effective as possible?
Cost effective as far as
That you don't want the budget to keep growing and growing. Does all through your team, you have mechanisms that you can?
well, that goes to what Tim was talking about with the multiple estimates that we do with 2 estimators, and then we reconcile them. That say the first one we're going to do in schematic design comes back and it's on budget, but then they get into DD and there's more stuff they didn't see in the drawings, and all of a sudden we're out of budget. And so now we're sitting with them during that reconciliation meeting and say, okay, we're over budget. We can't be over budget. We have to take something out. We have to take some quality out or quantity out or something to shrink that price. And we come to a realization of what we can or can't do. And we do it again in construction documents at 60% and at 90%. By 90%, you pretty much, the estimators know what the building's going to look like. There's no design contingency in that estimate. So if we've done our job in schematic design, design development, 60% CD, by the time you get to 90%, it better be right where we said it's going to be, or something really wrong would happen. And we've never experienced that.
Greg?
Sure, so one important aspect of this project is grade configuration,
Right.
potentially school consolidation,
Yep.
which is a significant aspect of making sure whatever decision is made, this is a successful project. You talked about engaging the community. How do you truly know if the community is engaged? You can hold forums, you can do surveys, so that we're heading down a path in which we're moving a project forward that the community truly can support.
Well, one of the thing, if you look at the schedule I handed out, that's more of a Gantt chart, and you look at the green bar, which is in phase 3, the feasibility portion, the first portion of that is going to be the design team looking at the existing conditions of the facility. But if you look just under that, there's called a visioning session. The design team hires educational planners. There's 2 very well known in the Commonwealth that have been used, and there are a few more coming online. They will sit with the community, with the educational people, with the town, with everybody, to talk about what the vision is for this building and how it's going to work for the next 50 years. So they're going to look at it 2 ways. One with the elementary school as it is today and the 300 some odd students that are in it, or making it, I think it was 3 to 5, and putting the pre-K part of that also, which is a kind of an odd mix. But they will look at that and talk about the pros and cons of that, and talk about how to make that work for you folks and to your satisfaction. They're not going to dictate to you. They're going to work with you to explain the pros and cons of that. At the end, you're going to know those pros and cons and make that decision from that.
It is a tough one, because you don't always know. Sorry. I was going to say, it is a tough one. You don't always know. We recently went through that on a project, and you have these community forums. You just don't know if people are going to pay attention until they're almost ready to vote on the project. And so you'd like to bring them along so that they understand why a 3 to 5 makes more sense for you than the existing configuration. But trying to get out there as much as we can in different formats and different ways. Not everybody's going to be online looking at a web page, but maybe there's information that can be distributed in other fashions. And so we try and hit all parts of the community, some of the older folks that may not have the technology, or make sure that we're getting that information out to everybody.
Thank you.
We down to 1 minute now? 3. And any further questions we can answer? We'd love to work with you folks. As you know, we're working on your fire department new facility there, and we loved working on the Lincoln Street School. Mike Dykins happens to be a member of your community. He lives in Northborough, so it's nice to have him right around the corner. So all good things. We like working with you in the past, and we'd love to work with you going forward.
Thank you very much. Anything further? All right, hearing none, thank you, and
Thank you so much.
yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was nice meeting everyone.
Nice to meet you.
Take care.
I'm afraid to unplug this.
Well, good luck with the rest of your
Thank you
meetings this
very
evening.
much, thank you. Okay, thank you very
Just so
much.
if it helps, it is a PowerPoint, so if you need one in
We'll see if we
PDF,
can figure out how to open it, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
let me know if you need a PDF.
Take care.
Good night, thank you.
They provide that more information.
She has all the time.
Every once in a while, see the hard copy.
And I can leave you.
Yes, okay.
There's some
excellent. Okay.
backup slides that we didn't go through in there, just so you understand that if we were asked questions, we have some working answers. We had a tier, we had some things on capacity that were just things that we had in case those questions.
Thank you very much,
So-
good,
This is helpful, thank you.
Yeah.
thank you.
So a couple of things, there's capacity, who's working on what. We have successful and difficult projects. The same thing I handled.
that we'll bring the next group in and do a tech check in advance.
Yep. Technology.
Dave, we're gonna bring the next group in shortly and do a tech check on the next presentation.
Oh, really? You have a PDF.
There are a few extra slides, like this has the
I thought
capacity.
they skipped that because I knew
They have a PDF on presentation, so they do. We have a PowerPoint.
They said.
Yeah,
That's good to have that.
these are intros. I have a PDF.
And the comparative evaluation matrix, okay? I didn't notice these that hours and all
Oh, that's why you were like, how are we gonna do this? I see. Yes.
I'm bringing them.
And we'll hold on to all three sheets of paper.
Yes, we are.
The cleanest was even look at that PDF version.
Becky, who's the next group?
PMA.
PMA is the next group,
I'll go try that.
and prep them.
Yeah, I will.
And they can come in anytime to do the tech check, so they can be
Yes.
5 minutes early. They
What
can
time
come
is
in
there?
now.
What time is there?
7:15
All right,
is our start.
let me get it going now.
They can come now.
All right, great.
Thank you. All right, so we'll hand out the next scoring sheet for the next group. Yes.
Do you like to collect the portion or?
Yeah, but not yet, at the end. Yes. Yes. So you avoided the prolonged tech check at the last interview, about 5, 6, 7 minutes of silence, but we think we're up and running. When you give the cue to Rebecca, she'll start your slideshow and she can advance the slides. You do have a microphone at the podium, and Dave is asking that you speak closely to the mic. If you stand around the side, it won't pick you up.
Okay.
Anybody who's sitting here has a mic there. We are being live streamed.
Okay.
So I'll welcome you and then just talk about some notes. So my name is Erica Hall. I'm the chair for the Peaslee Building Committee. And on behalf of the committee, thank you for joining us in Northborough tonight and joining us in person. Before we meet you, I would like you to be able to put a name with a face for our team. So I'm just going to go through and have everybody say their names. So we'll start with Diana.
Diana Nicholas.
Laura Bailey Jones.
Kevin Biersch.
Rob Tomasetti.
Sean Durkin.
Craig Martin, superintendent.
Hi, Becky Pellegrino.
Tristan Bevan.
And Keith Boyd.
Thank you. And we also have some folks joining online. Mike.
Hi, Mike Teason, Selectman.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Jason Little, Finance Director for the town.
Thank you. So we have, per our OPM document, we have 30 minutes for your presentation tonight, and then we have 15 minutes for Q&A.
Okay.
And I have a volunteer who has, been voluntold to be a timekeeper. So we'll start now with your 30 minutes, and he'll hold a 5-minute and a 1-minute
Okay.
for your presentation, and then we'll restart the clock for Q&A. We have some members with prepared questions for Q&A.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
You can start the time now.
Thank you. Let me start by introducing myself. I'm Steve Verstica. I'm an executive director at PMA. Been at PMA for 35 years now. I'll be the project director and the principal in charge of the project. I will be involved with every aspect of the project. I've been doing this for a long time. I actually started PMA's OPM practice 20 years ago with 2 other people, and our first project was actually the Dallin Elementary School in Arlington. It was our very first OPM assignment. We've grown it since then. You'll hear more about some of our projects as we go through things. We're very excited to be here. I think this is a great opportunity for you to meet the members of our team. Some people might be a little nervous standing at a podium talking into a microphone, but I think you'll see the chemistry among our team. Brian and I have been working together for more than 13 years now. It took me a while to pirate him away from the firm he was at, but I was very glad that Brian joined us. Feel free to ask questions. I know we're on a timer, but if there's a question, something that's burning when you hear it, feel free to ask. Ian Sheridan is not here with us tonight. He's on a vacation, so he'll be back on Friday. I think that's the key things. I know you've checked our references. We were told by a few people that you have called. One thing I do want to point out is PMA has been hired to replace some OPMs over the last few years for different reasons. I won't say who they are or what the circumstances were, but I think as you look at firms and you check references, I think you should just be careful to make sure that you're picking the right firm for the project. I think I'll turn it over to Brian.
Yes.
All right, thanks, Steve. Hello, my name is Brian DeFilippis. I'm a senior director at PMA. Have 28 years experience in the industry. I'm a Wentworth grad out of Boston. 15 years with PMA, managing projects. I manage most of the municipal projects north of Boston with this team. This is your West Elementary School team. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a couple of minutes. Next screen.
My name's Karina Pena. I've been in the industry now for 10 years. 5 of those have been with PMA. I've worked on 4 MSBA projects. 3 of those have been accelerated repair projects, and 1 of them has been a core project. So I am fully in understanding of how the MSBA works. Also, I will be your main point of contact. So I am your go-to person, and if you have any questions, I'm readily available at any point.
How's everyone doing? My name is Kevin Weeks. I will be the Assistant Project Manager for construction. I will be involved with design, but I will be mostly involved with the construction process. I have 16 years in the industry, 6 with PMA. Prior to that, I was a union carpenter for 10. Went to school at night at Wentworth to get my bachelor's, and was lucky enough to get an opportunity with PMA 6 years ago. I am also a certified licensed construction supervisor and a MCPPO certified professional, and I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity.
How you doing? I'm Rob Averill. I'll be the on-site representative. I'm on the job every day, all day, to make sure that things are going the right way. I got 12 years of experience in construction, 1 here with PMA and Steve and this great group of people. So we're very excited for the opportunity, and we hope to work together. So nice to meet you all.
Next slide.
Sorry, it is me. Sorry for that. We organized our presentation to answer the questions in order that you provided them to us. Next slide. One thing I want to touch on is our experience on school projects. We have managed several 149A CM at risk projects. We've managed several design bid build, Chapter 149 projects, and we've managed several hybrid projects that have been 149 and Chapter 30, where there's been a need to do abatement in the building or demolition or something like that. And we've worked with the designer, put Chapter 30 packages together and bid those. But I think it's important to see what experience we have. PMA is focused primarily on OPM work. We're not designers, we're not contractors, even though we've come from the industry and several people have PE licenses. We focus on OPM work, and we have about 100 people here locally who do that.
Next slide, please. Okay, now getting to some examples. So this is the West Elementary School project. It's about 90% complete. This has been a very successful project that we've managed through COVID. This is one solution for 2 problems that the town of Andover had. They're 2 most inefficient buildings. This solves that problem. So the building size is 191,000 square feet. This has a pre-K through 5 grade level. It's $168 million estimated. We're currently under budget. We're monitoring that very closely. This is a 2-phased project, so we opened up the elementary school last fall on time. And the second part is the Shawshene preschool portion with the fields. And that is projected to be open on time this fall. This project originally included in their SOI an elementary school. We were able to work with the MSBA to include a pre-K. And that the town is now redistricting or talking through those plans of how to redistrict to bring more students to this new facility. This will be their newest elementary school. It's for 1,100 kids. Some challenges here. Like anything else, the site is tight. We had to build in the back where the fields were. We built 8 feet away. We worked closely with the police department, fire department, building inspector. We were very successful with that. We actually had little boards where the kids could come up and kind of stare into our site to see what was going on. We actually included traffic mitigation problem solving that day one. We're active construction. We minimized some sites. We brought in some drive lanes. We actually were more successful than the original building as it was. Obviously, with combining the schools, we had a lot of areas where we have to make them multi-purpose and swing spaces between the 2 entities, the pre-K and the elementary school, as they act a little different. This project, as you can imagine, MSBA, so extensive outreach, visioning, programming, involving all stakeholders from students right up to neighbors. We kind of held their hand throughout the whole process and successfully. We procured the designer, the CM at risk, the testing agent, FF&E. We're still kind of finishing that now, as you can imagine, with opening up the preschool. And obviously working closely with the utility companies. We can't get that started soon enough, so like yesterday. And, you know, we'll be here every step of the way. It should be noted in the corner here, CMAA, Construction Management Association of America, will be receiving an award for this project on Wednesday in Boston at an award ceremony. Karina, now we'll talk about the budget.
Next slide, please. All right, so we have to make sure that we're managing the budget throughout the whole project from the minute that we're on, if chosen, starting the project. As you all know, I'm pretty sure you guys worked on the Lincoln. That was also an MSBA project. They have cost codes that we need to follow. So we have developed a spreadsheet that includes all of the information that the MSBA is looking for, from RFIs, submittals, budget, just everything. So the first explains what the actual line item is. This is just a snippet. This is not the full budget, but just to show you an example of what it looks like. Then the next column shows you what the cost code is. These cost codes are based on what the MSBA is looking for. We also include the original budget, the current budget, the billable budget, and what's been billed to date, as well as what's still remaining and the percent complete. This allows us to make sure that we're minimizing any risk. The minute that we notice that the budget is going over, or if a contractor said they were going to be done with a certain aspect of their scope of work, if they're under than what they were supposed to be, then we're tracking that to make sure that we tell them, hey, you need to get going because something's wrong here. So we try to make sure that we minimize any risks throughout the process. Also, this helps us with submitting a monthly report. We usually do 2 monthly reports. One goes directly to the MSBA. They require that of us to make sure that we're reporting everything that's going on in the project. But we do also provide a report directly to you all, which includes, if we go to the next slide, it includes all of this information. It'll let you know where we are in contingency, the CM contingency, if this does go as a CM at risk project, the construction contingency, the owner's contingency. It'll let you know how much we spent for soft costs, hard costs, as well as any budget that is spent with PMA, the OPM, the CM at risk, or GC, whatever we decide to go with, and the architect. Again, this is a report that we submit to you guys. It also includes where we are in RFIs, if any RFIs have not been provided back to with a response on time. Same thing with submittals. This report will let you know anything that you're looking for at any point in the process.
So if you could go to the next slide, I believe one of the questions the committee asked had to do with challenging projects and how we dealt with them. So I would like to introduce the Andover-Darty Middle School project, which I was the lead on. This was supposed to be a simple elevator lobby addition renovation. What was encountered was everything except for arrowheads and dinosaur fossils underground. It was a lot of unforeseen conditions. We encountered abandoned steam vault that was actually in the footprint of where the elevator pit was going. That was a nice surprise. The associated piping was there. We had utilities that were supposed to be 6 feet outside the limit of work that were just mysteriously right in the middle of where things were supposed to go. So needless to say, what could have went wrong kind of went wrong. We also discovered that we had an unsupported structural wall that was supposed to have bond beams and a haunched foundation slab that neither were there. So what we had to do was kind of navigate those challenges. Additionally, we had owner added scope due to MAAB nonconformance issues with accessibility. So we had to address those as well. All in all, this project was supposed to be completed, substantially completed August of 2024. All the unforeseen conditions added an additional 4 months to the schedule. However, I'm proud to say that we were able to successfully negotiate the delay claim with the contractor, and we were able to deliver this project under budget still with the delay. So while it was a challenge, it turned out to be a positive story in the end.
Next slide, please. This is a great question. I really like this one. So let me take a shot at answering it. I think it's important to take a step back and just talk a little bit about how we find people and hire people. And we have a very detailed interview process. Everyone who's interviewed is interviewed by at least 2 senior people in our group. We try to look for attitude and aptitude, and we look for skills. We have people who've come from the design side, construction side, who have been carpenters or steel workers who become part of our team. We look for chemistry, and I say all the time in interviews, we want to find somebody that we want, but we want to find people who want to be at PMA. We hire not just for projects, we hire long-term. If you look at our average here in the Boston office, it's probably 22 years that people have come to PMA and stayed. They like who they work with, they like the company and how it's run, they like the culture. And personally, I say all the time, welcome to the family, because that's what I feel like when people join us. And I hired all these people, so I know they can do the job and do it very well. Next slide, please. So let me just touch on a few things here. I won't go through all the bullets because I know time is running, but we want to be your trusted advisor. If you don't trust us to manage the project, keep you updated, transparent communication, then we're not doing our job right. We want to be your trusted advisor and be part of your team. We are a part of your team. We'll be involved with every aspect of the project from day one until the keys are turned over and the building is commissioned and finalized. We provide executive level support. I'm not sure every company does that. I'm involved with every single project. Sometimes it's just to know what's happening. I never have to get involved, project's going well. But sometimes someone like Brian has to take a vacation, and I step in and help the team and help manage the project. In our business unit, we've had no turnover in 3 years. I don't think many companies can say that. People who join PMA stay. So that's how we develop a cohesive team. We know each other. Brian and I have done so many projects together, and Karina and I, Kevin I knew before he even joined us. His mother-in-law is friends with my wife. So I've known these people for a long time. I know they can do a great job, but I know they're very cohesive and work well together. I mentioned our bench strength. We have about 100 people here locally. I don't think any other OPM firm can say that. Next slide. Let me just take a minute. We want to build consensus for the project. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the project if there's outliers, if people don't agree, if the committee's unhappy with our services or the designer services. We work very hard to be transparent, to facilitate that cooperation and that cohesive approach to projects. Communication, we talk communication all the time. Karina touched on the reports that we provide, but we'll have weekly meetings. Issues come up, we'll have a meeting on that, talk about it. We want to make sure that we build consensus, that you trust us, and the project moves forward. I think I'll leave it there because I know time's running.
So we've touched on quite a bit of these approaches that we take to project management, but I did also want to talk through a couple of these items. One is community outreach. We make sure that we attend any public meetings to make sure that we're keeping the public in the know of what's going on with this project, as well as any flyers. We have a marketing team that does a great job with flyers and make sure that we get those flyers done and get those out to the public so they know that what's going on with the project, as well as websites. For West, I know we had a Facebook page. We also have a page for the town that's where we put any and all information. And it was all information that we provided to the town to make sure that they can put it up in their website. Another item that I'd like to briefly talk through is contract administration. We want to make sure that this project is done on time and successfully on budget. So we want to make sure that we're keeping people accountable that are in this project to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And the way to do that is to use the contract and make sure it's being followed.
And I just briefly want to touch on the daily and monthly reporting. So being on site every day, I fill out a daily report that documents site conditions, work in progress, what trades are on the job at a time. Pictures with descriptions, so if anything ever comes up down the road, we need to reference back. We can tell if it was a rainy day, if something went wrong, or if it was a perfect day and they're making something up. But it ties into the monthly reports too, which you'll get a weekly manpower number, where we're tracking with all that stuff Karina mentioned with the budget. But we just stay on top of it so we make sure we have everything documented in case something comes up.
Next slide. All right, so to summarize, we have a list of who our stakeholders would be for this project. Again, I'm not going to go bullet point by bullet point for this slide, but I just want to make sure you guys understand. We're an extension of you. We're here to make sure that the town gets what they deserve for this project, and we'll make sure that that happens.
All right, question 3. Who are the team and why are they here? So 6 folks as part of our team. Ian couldn't make it, he's on vacation. All of our staff are MCPPO trained. We're procurement professionals as part of Massachusetts General, next slide, General Law. This is the West team. We understand how the MSBA works. We'll advocate for the town in this instance to get you the project that you need. Who? So Karina will be your main point of contact the day-to-day. I'll always be there for support, as will Steve. Kevin will be managing the construction deliverables. Ian will be delivering the design deliverables, and then Rob will be on site during construction. We work daily together. We cover when things need to be done. Collaborative approach and teamwork. We work with each other. We like each other, and I think that shows. This staff has been added back for numerous projects in the same towns. Please check our references if you haven't. Next slide. Anticipated time commitment. So you'll see here, I won't go through all the numbers, but our team will kind of come in and out as needed to meet the requirements of the MSBA, the 8 modules that you'll be walking through as part of that process. You've started this already. Our plan aligns with supporting those modules along the way. It outlines the time commitments that we feel that each staff member will need to manage those expectations. So for oversight, Steve will be here as needed. Myself, I'll be around whenever needed. Karina will be the day-to-day. Rob will be on site during construction. Ian will manage the design deliverables, and then Kevin, who is also a CSL, will manage the construction.
Next slide. So we can go on to the next slide after this one. Your question was about sustainability and grants. So this is the Acton Town Hall. I don't know if you guys are aware, but Acton is in the process right now of electrifying the whole town. So they're gonna get rid of natural gas throughout the town. Our first project that we did was the North Acton Fire Station. There we did some geothermal wells, as well as solar that was active on day 1. And as of right now, when it comes to grants, we've been helping them apply. So they just actually put together the NOI just to get the grants for decarbonization. And aside from this project, we did also help the town of Andover to get some E-rate grants. That's for grants for any tech materials that was purchased for the project. And then we were able to get a grant of about $200,000 for that. I was every step of the way helping them with that, putting together the contract and making sure that everything that the town needed to provide for the E-rate was provided to them. We also did work closely with National Grid, provided any information that they needed so that we can also get a rebate, and that was also about $200,000 that we helped in getting the town. Next slide. This is a list of all the sustainable projects that PMA has worked on. Some of these have been projects that were supposed to be silver. We ended up getting gold. So we've exceeded what the expectation was for these projects.
All right, if you can go to the next slide, please. So this is an example of one of the presentations we gave for Acton for their life cycle cost analysis. This was between a geothermal ground source heat pump, a variable refrigerant flow system, and a central VAV system, basically a central AC with a hot water supply. The towns of Acton is actually in a fossil fuel-free initiative. This was one of their first projects kind of moving into that mandate. So their concerns were more along the lines of limiting their carbon footprint as well as what their the payback was in terms of years. So that's kind of what we focused on for this case scenario. As you can see, it turned out that the geothermal heat pumps were most advantageous, the 11.5-year period for realizing the costs again. And it also life cycle cost savings of about $138,000 yearly. If you want to go to the next slide, we can show just kind of, we outlined pros and cons. This again was used for presentation purposes. We've also brought in concerned neighbors who had kind of, we had some neighbors who were engineers concerned about the green initiatives in the town. So this helped us kind of break down how we saw each system and the benefits to the system. These were the pros. As you can see, geothermal kind of was the big winner. And when you go to the cons, next slide, you'll see that it's kind of the exact opposite. Not many cons for geothermal aside from the high upfront costs, whereas the central VAV was pretty negative for the town, especially that it required both natural gas for heat and domestic hot water. So this ties into, next slide, sorry. This ties into the MSBA modules because this is something that we'll initiate right in Module 3, feasibility study. It's something that we will refine throughout the deliverables through each module. As you get into the PDP deliverable, the PSR, each will have more detail of the analysis till we get to Module 6, which is detailed design. That's when we deliver our design development report. That kind of finalizes the mechanicals, the electricals, all your building management systems, and that gives the designer a final go-ahead to design those systems and get ready for construction. This is also important to start at the beginning because, as noted in the previous slide, the life cycle costs, the energy grants, the green initiatives, you can actually recoup points on your MSBA funding. I believe it's up to four points you can get additionally on that through green initiatives. So that's something that we'll be really aggressive in trying to find for the town to try and maximize the amount of funding that we can get back from the MSBA. Oh, sorry, one more slide. And then this is just kind of some of the benefits to a life cycle cost analysis for the town, and it's kind of what the MSBA provides with us. Keeping the town involved throughout the whole process. you'll be able to make more informed decisions of what's aligned with your initiatives and what the town would like to see for sustainable initiatives as well. It promotes energy efficiency. It helps to maximize the town's taxpayers' dollars, mitigating any wasteful spending in terms of the management systems, the building systems. Again, there's eligibility for reimbursement through the MSBA and other grants. And it also helps the town with long-term budgeting of building systems if we have the right system in place that doesn't need as much maintenance as, doesn't need as much maintenance as, say, a central VAV system where there's, more yearly maintenance. It can help the town budget for those, surplus of money saved. So, thank you.
Next slide, please.
All right, so for us, I think what we bring to the commissioning process is the relationship aspect of it. We're the gatekeeper for you guys with the MSBA. I'm on site witnessing tests, making sure that we have a good working relationship with the commissioning agent. So if something does come up along the lines or down the road and we got to fix it, it might be something as simple as they trust us to send them a picture, prove that we're doing it the right way, and delivering the product that you guys pay for and want. Can we go to the next slide, please? Oh, sorry, next slide. So this is just an example of a commissioning log from a job that Kevin did in Marshfield. And just an example for just the relationships aspect we bring. Kevin finished the job a couple months down the road. There were some HVAC issues, and PMA was on site after the contract expired to make sure that we sustain our relationships with our customers and deliver the product that we promise. So we look forward to working with you guys, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. How are we doing on time?
Right here.
We're right there. Okay, thank you very much. So we'll restart the clock. We'll have a 15-minute window for some Q&A, and we have some folks with prepared questions to read now. You ready, timekeeper?
Yep, go ahead.
Yes.
I can try to answer your questions.
You can call us up.
So have you ever experienced a failed town vote? And if so, what role did the OPM play in the process? And what lessons can be drawn from a failed town vote?
Okay, so Andover High School, recently, so as you can imagine, $168 million for an elementary school that's in the works. The high school was another initiative they wanted to take on. We priced that out, basically $500 million. No real appetite to have taxes then go up again. So we re-envisioned the plan. We're now part of another initiative. It's kind of, I think it's called the Andover High School Improvement Plan, where we're going to do some renovations where fit, some additions for science rooms, and roughly $50 to $60 million price tag. So kind of re-pulling, the process and the vision of the plan and managing that now. So, more outreach to the town's people to make sure that we get that right. And, it's a renovation right now.
So did you feel like there were lessons learned from that? Or
Outreach. I think more outreach. We're doing extensive outreach as part of this process. And then I think as part of West Elementary, if we're able to be successful there, which we believe we are, have a good story to tell, and then just dovetail into the high school.
Can I ask one clarifying question?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the type of outreach, like specifically?
We go to every meeting. Outreach with parents, with neighbors, the building committee. We're at every meeting.
Yeah, I can add to it.
Sure.
We've also had tables at like the local farmers market with information boards, and we're there answering questions. We've done flyers to specific areas, and parents of students that will be at that school. We also prepare things for the town website. So they have a link on the Town of Andover website, so you can find out whatever you want to find out about the project, and that gets updated on a regular basis.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add one last thing.
Yeah.
Also, actually,
Thank you. Sorry.
we have also actually mailed letters out to people in the town, just to make sure that everyone is in the know of what's going on, and if they need to go out there and vote for the project. There was one initiative, like for West, it was Yes to West, and then there was signs that were put outside of people's lawns, just to make sure that people go out and vote for the project.
Thank you.
All right. Tell us about a time when you struggled with the building project. How did you resolve conflicts with any of the parties involved?
I can talk a little more about Doherty. So, like I said, with the Doherty project, we did have quite a few challenges. And one of the biggest challenges was dealing with kind of a personality clash between the contractor, the architect, and the town, and just kind of getting everybody on the same page. The best way I found to do that was having a lot of conversations with all parties involved, sometimes one-on-one, sometimes together, just trying to get everybody on the same page and understanding that, yes, we've hit all these challenges, but no one's pointing fingers. We just want what's best for everyone involved. For the contractor, we want them to get what they're paid, what they deserve, and to be released so they can go pursue more work. For the town, we want to deliver the project that they deserve. And for the architect, we just want to make sure that their reputation goes, as is. So it was a lot of massaging of egos, a lot of talking with the town, keeping them in the loop, because really we can't go further with any actions until we get full buy-in from the town. The stakeholders are the most important, So it was really a lot of conversations, a lot of building of trust throughout the process, and really kind of getting everybody to a place where it was a mutually beneficial situation.
So that would suggest that you have someone obviously had to take less money than what they had put in. How did you convince them to fulfill their end of the project and maybe not for the same amount of money?
Yeah, so what happened for this was where the conditions were unforeseen, it was kind of the liability was a little bit murky between who was at fault. The town could have had better records, they didn't. The contractor, once they found these conditions, could have resequenced their work a little bit better to save time. So we, through schedule update reviews, we were able to kind of show that to them that, hey, you could have made up X amount of days had you performed the work in this sequence. You chose not to, so it's on you. So it's kind of having multiple, come to Jesus talks with, I understand we're not fully at fault, but we are here, same thing here, and just kind of getting both sides to see that it's not cut and dry. I'm sorry, there's not like a precise formula to get, but it was, it's a lot of touch and go with personalities and egos in those situations.
Thank you. What are some challenges that you foresee in the next year or two that are specific to school building projects? And how would you plan to address some of those challenges?
So I believe some of those challenges would be, right now, the economy. We really don't know, especially with tariffs, where things are headed. But we are trying to make sure that we keep ourselves knowledgeable for future projects as to how it is that we would be able to make sure that that's being managed.
Also on a weekly basis now, where we've asked the contractor to talk about long lead items and how they dovetail to the schedule. Just in keeping with electrical gear, generators, they're usually 50 to 60 weeks, and try to, how we mitigate that, talk about it weekly, not monthly, not quarterly, but weekly. and keep those discussions open.
Thank you. How many minutes do they have left?
7.
So you have some minutes left. Do you have any final thoughts for us or last words with your remaining time?
Of course, I'll take that. No, I just wanted to say, although I come across a little nervous, I want to make sure that you know that I make sure that you get what you deserve in a project. I am extremely assertive, and I make sure that I'm, for lack of better words, in people's faces to make sure that they do what they're supposed to be doing. And I will send a million emails if I have to, show up wherever they are if I have to, but I want to make sure that you guys get what you guys are paying for and what you deserve.
The only other thing I'd like to mention, and you've heard it a couple times, this is the team that is finishing up the West Elementary School project. $162 million, $168 million project, very successful. Wednesday, we're being awarded Project of the Year by CMAA, and it's very competitive to win those awards. We haven't won one in a few years. We're very happy about that. So this team knows how to work together. They know MSBA, and they can just hit the ground running on your project.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions from this body? Rod?
I do. Karina and Brian, you went through a lot of the challenges foreseen in the next couple of years, mostly specific to the construction administration process. The other buckets of activities that the MSBA has at different phases, it's kind of zone, phase 1 through 8. Maybe some examples of challenges that you faced and how you overcame them in those different buckets than just the construction phase. Modules,
Okay.
yes, my apologies.
Yeah, with regards to estimates, the architect does an estimate. We'll do an estimate. We always reconcile those to make sure they're within reason. To meet the budget, we'll always do value engineering. Everyone is busy right now. We always have a good list of folks that we like to work with, that we reach out to. One project recently, we had 130 firms that were pre-qualified for contractors and filed sub-bidders. So we keep going out and keep making sure we have good competition. MSBA is a little bit different because we have to go to Boston, or now it's virtual, to make sure that we pick the right firm for an architect. But we've done that numerous times. See them at risk. We did that full gamut at West Elementary. So, hiring a commissioning agent, although MSBA assigns us one, we have relationships with those firms. Testing agents, FF&E firms, we've done it all at West Elementary. So hopefully you've reached out to Andover and the folks there.
Thank you.
Anything to add?
Yes, I'll just add one more thing. So during design, sorry.
I think you asked a different question than, were you asking about challenges in the different modules? Like in the different phases of the MSBA process?
Yes, I misspoke and said instead I used phases instead of modules.
I just want to make sure you're getting the information you want, that's all.
Yes, through the design, procurement, the closeout.
Okay.
Just the different
Okay, they answered
parts
your
of the
question.
module.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. So also during design, we do design reviews where, let's say at feasibility, we're doing reviews of those feasibilities. We make sure that we provide comments to the designer, make sure they respond to those comments to make sure that they are going to attribute those to the design and specs. We do the same thing at 30%. So during every phase of the design, whenever we need to even submit to the MSBA, we're making sure that we're tracking it, that we're providing comments, and that they're responding to those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to add on to that real quick, I think the challenges during the design modules are mostly just making sure that the designer and the team is ready to have each deliverable ready for each due date. You have to have them in by a certain time for each deliverable to be presented for a committee meeting and approved to go on to the next module. If you miss that date, it gets kicked down another 2 months, and it can be very detrimental to the project. So making sure those deliverables are delivered in a timely manner. That's one challenge. In terms of procurement, if the project was to go CM at risk, there's always some risk in the schedule there because you're at the mercy of the state to give you approval to proceed. They can take up to 60 days for that approval process. Sometimes they're good enough to get back to you within a month. It's happened maybe once I've seen so far, but they typically use that full window. So if you're not, if you don't have your schedule aligned to build in those dates, you can get into trouble there. So it's really just kind of hitting those milestone dates for deliverables and procurement. That would be foreseeable challenges.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, we release you. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the opportunity, we appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
This was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have one more team?
We have one more, yep, and Keith will show you out, and
Good luck.
yep, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, take care. Yes, yep. We're doing pretty good on time, yes. Yep, stretch break. Oh, yeah. a quick tech check. So I see your presentation up on the screen. Just as a reminder, you are not driving. You have a designated
You filled us
driver
in.
tonight.
All right.
Yep,
Awesome.
okay.
Thank you.
So that's Becky. So if you need it in advance, just say next slide, please, and she'll do
You got
that. So we're running a little ahead of schedule, which is nice. So my name is Erica Hall, and I'm the chair of the Peaslee Building Committee. So on behalf of the committee, I'd like to welcome you here tonight. Thanks for coming to Northborough and joining us live. And before we meet you, I'd like you to get a chance to put names with faces. So we'll go down the line here so that you can hear everybody's name.
Diana Nicholas.
Hi, Lauren Bailey Jones.
Kevin Biersch.
Rob Tomasetti.
John Durkin.
Greg Martineau.
Becky Pellegrino.
Tristan Desert.
And Keith Lloyd.
Awesome.
And we also have some folks, including voting member, joining us online.
Hi, Mike Tejan, Selectman.
Hey, Mike.
I'm Jason Little, Finance Director for the town.
Great.
Thank you. So before we get started, just a couple technical notes. This meeting is being live streamed, and we have folks joining in a hybrid meeting. So we ask that you speak into the microphones. And then we have allotted 30 minutes for presentation and 15 minutes for Q&A. And I've had a lovely volunteer be voluntold to timekeep tonight. So Tristan has a 5 and 1 minute time indicator, and he'll be running the clock tonight for the questions. So
I'm gonna start
your-
mine right here too.
Okay, so your 30 minutes begin now.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for having us tonight. What we've got on schedule for you is to talk about our firm's background, our team's extensive MSBA experience, how we approach managing your project, how we lead a transparent and open process for you all and for the town. And we're going to address within our presentation your questions. So if you look at the headings have numbers based on the questions that Becky had sent over. So not quite in the same order, but we think we're going to hit everything that's out there. So just to start off, my name is John Lemieux. Next slide, please. Sorry. I'm clicking and it works. So my name is John Lemieux. I will be the project director for the project. Been with Vertex for 25 years next month. I have been, almost my entire 32-year career has been doing municipal projects. Most of my time at Vertex has been doing municipal projects with, since 2007, almost entirely OPM work. Currently the project director of the Richer School in Marlborough. Yeah.
I'm Steve Theron, Senior Project Manager for the project. I'll be your main point of contact for the project. I understand well what your role is. I was the chairman of the Southborough School Building Committee for many years. I was in charge of the Woodward School project, the elementary school project when that was done. And I was in charge, as Mr. Lavoie knows, of the additions to the Trotter Middle School project as well. So I have a very good understanding of what your role is, what you're looking for from an OPM, and what you expect from us all. So we all understand that very well here. On my role in the project, I'll be working with John to make community presentations, coordinate with you guys and with John to make community presentations, make presentations to you as a building committee, and also typically I would run the weekly construction meeting when construction's happening.
Hi, I'm Meredith Borden. I'll be the project manager. Recently, I've completed the Westwood Hanlon Elementary School, as well as schools for Walpole and Norwood.
How you doing? My name's Alan Crowley. I'm a licensed construction supervisor. I've been with Vertex for about 6 years, and I've been working in construction for about 25 years. That includes residential, municipal, industrial, and commercial projects. I also have about 9 years' experience as a member of the select board in my hometown of Middleborough. While in that role, I worked on 4 different building committees. We built a police station, a high school, DPW facility, and a, what was the last one? Nope, we got the high school, but a wastewater treatment facility. So, what else? I'm currently working in Milton on the second of 2, on the second project of a series of 3 public safety projects. And I currently serve on the school committee and the chair of the planning board in my hometown.
And I'm Mary Cuppins. I head up our OPM project accounting group. I'm here today to answer any questions you may have on our budgeting process or MSBA reimbursements. I've been with Vertex 16 years, and first project was an MSBA model school that I worked on with Steve.
The one member of our committee that team that couldn't be here tonight is Chin Lin. He's deserving a well-earned vacation. Prior to coming to us 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, Chin spent about 25 years as a public school architect for HMFH Architects. So before he switched over to the dark side of owner's project management. So he's a wonderful resource for the team. His primary responsibilities will include interfacing with you during the educational planning process. A great resource because he's spent so much time on the design side of those processes. He's also our sustainability lead, and we'll get into all of your questions about sustainability later. Also, as a larger firm that has a depth of resources, you can see the bar across the bottom. That just shows you our in-house design review resources. So we have architectural, mechanical, building envelope, all of those things in-house, not because you're hiring us to do the design, but we have those resources to check that design before it gets out on the street at each of the different iterations. We use 2 sub-consultants, Integrated Data Systems, IDS, and PM&C Cost Estimating. And we'll talk a little bit more about IDS in a bit, but those are the 2 members of our team that's subcontracted. To talk about, your question, next slide, please, sorry. To talk about your question 5 about key personnel, I think as you heard from the team, we all have a significant amount of MSBA experience. Steve and I have worked on numerous projects together, including the Fales project, Fales Elementary School in Westboro, just down the road, where Chin was also the architect, and Mary did the project accounting, so really a lot of overlap there. As you can see in the matrix we've provided, you can see each of the phases. Schematic design phase is really now through the vote. Post-vote, you would have design development, construction documents, and bidding. You would then have construction administration and closeout. Call your attention to Alan and Chin's hours in the design phase, DD, CD, and bidding. That's like a total effort. Alan, as the construction site manager, will spend some time during the various design iterations, kind of one-off, and then come back when the project's ready. Same thing with Chin. Just a little bit about the firm. We've been doing K-12 OPM work for over 17 years. We've combined over 100 projects between $2 million and $300 million in the last 15 years. Our Norwood office has over 49 people just focused on OPM work. So, when we talk about those resources on the last slide, we don't take a project if we don't feel like we can staff it with the team that you have here. These are the people you'll be dealing with on the project. We are not fans of bait and switch or any of those sorts of things, because we are only as good as the phone call that you make to Marlboro or to Westboro or to Southboro about this team. We like to deliver a brand of intense customer service where really we want to become your trusted partner. If you look at our history, we've got repeat business with over 30 different cities, towns, and private clients. And many of the municipal clients, we've done 3 or more projects with them. I believe we're on our 5th project with Westwood right now, our 5th project with Nantucket. We're on our 3rd or 4th with Westboro. So really, our clients are some of our best references. Now we're going to get to the past performance question on schools. As you saw from our response, we have a ton of elementary school experience. This is a sampling of it here. That experience crosses the range from, evaluating multiple sites, congested campuses, projects that required swing space. Most importantly, and you'll see on the next slide, grade reconfiguration and school consolidation situations. Many of those projects, the ones in green you could see, are projects that have moved towards the net zero projects in all electric buildings. As far as projects that are similar, you can see in blue the enrollment decision or enrollment choices the MSBA has given you of 310 students or 625, and you can see just 5 of the a representative sampling of 5 of the prior projects, 2 of them Hopkins, and so actually 6, you can see the different enrollment decisions that we've taken cities and towns through. Marlboro doesn't have a green box yet because we're in the middle of that process with them right now, trying to figure out, you know, which size project we're going to go with. But from the standpoint of whether it's a 310 student school or a 625, clearly we're comfortable with all sizes in that range. But what's most important to realize is that, you know, when we talk about a reconfiguration of schools or different enrollment sizes, it's not just a numbers-based decision. Everybody focuses on that, you know, in the end and the financial piece, but it really has all sorts of impacts across the delivery of education. You know, it has district-wide impacts. It impacts the social and emotional well-being of kids. You know, when you talk about families, you know, lots of things go into that decision, that enrollment decision of what we're going to do next. And we'll get a little bit deeper into that process in just a minute. Steve?
So for project successes, we have a couple of slides of projects up on the screen here. First slide is the Pentucket Regional Middle High School. Lots and lots of successes with that project. So this is a campus up in West Newbury, up by Newburyport, that had a middle school and a high school on the campus. And they decided as a region to build a middle high school. So the region is West Newbury, Merrimack, and Groveland. 3 very different communities, socioeconomic communities up there. The vote for the project was all on the same night. Town meeting by statute for the 3 towns, the vote is all at the same time. You couldn't take one and say it passed there, so you should pass it here, or we have some momentum. None of that, all at the same time. So we also had to divide and conquer with our project teams and say, okay, the message is best with you speaking to the folks there because they seem to be more interested in what the superintendent has to say, or whatever the messages were in the different communities. So that's how it all went, 90% success on the town meeting votes and the ballot votes in those communities. Great, great project, great success. The next slides, or the next picture on this slide, shows a picture of the Fales Elementary School in Westboro. Many successes with this project, but I want to describe one of the challenges there. In this picture, it's kind of hard to see, but up here, these are a couple of homes that happen to be just up above where the site is. And the challenge with this site is a fabulous hill from here all the way down to here. This is a 2-story building. This is actually accessed on the first level, but on the other side, where there is a parking lot, you access the building on the second level. So that's to give you a sense for the hill that is there. So on a project like this, the stormwater management was a tremendous challenge. For the base project, we have a design, a best practice for stormwater management that was provided as part of the project, but the stormwater management was way harder than that. Even with a spectacular effort from our folks on site, it was still way harder than that. Tristan was the lead on the site effort for that. So fabulous job, spectacular challenge. We work with conservation. We got to know conservation maybe better than we wanted to, but that's all what it was. A lot of communication with conservation to make sure this project was handled and this issue and challenge was handled the best that we could handle it there. Next slide. There's the B. Oh, thanks. Management approach. So this is the Vertex management approach. Team, plan, execute. So first we assemble the team, and the team, first step after the OPM hiring is to go get the designer. And that is through the MSBA process with the designer selection panel and to find the designer that the district works best with. That's the first challenge. Bring the designer on board, then decide what delivery method for the construction you want, CM at risk, design, bid, build, go out and do all the pre-qualification to bring that player on the team so we have the entire team together. That's the team component. Plan, strategize for the right enrollment, develop what the right project is for this. What is the enrollment, exactly which option is preferred, exactly how is that going to start, and start strong. The key thing to get success in the town is to get all the boards on board. No pun intended. So everybody has to know about the project and know what the challenges are with the project and support the project. You have to have that. Without that, it's really hard. So that's the first step. That's the plan. Plan to get in front of all the boards, informational meetings, and just get them on board so they understand what the project is and they support it. And then execute. That happens with urgency on day one, once you start in the field, and every day you bring that same urgency all the way through the end. The project ego is critical. The project ego has got to be a problem-solving ego, and that's it. Everybody, the OPM, the contractor, and the designer. Everybody's solving problems. Everybody's going to come up with issues, but that's got to be the project ego. And then timely reimbursement on Mary's world of things, process the money so it gets back to Northborough with the MSBA reimbursement program, manage the contingencies, and deliver the project on time.
So just a little bit on the approach for the timeline. In your RFS, you hit right on it. It's basically a 20 to 24-month process from starting now to a point where we'll end up going to the voters of the town to say, do you support this decision? Ton of work between now and then. And there's really, the point of this slide is to show you two parallel paths. There's the path in the yellow box, which is down in the bottom of the graph there, and then all of the colored lines above that. And Steve's going to talk a little bit about options analysis, but from the brown line to the blue line to the green line, it's really the process of establishing the many different options, and the MSBA really challenges you as a community to look at lots of different options. And in the blue line, we're getting that down to a few options. And then the green line is really the development of that one final option that's best for Northborough. But before you can make that final decision, you've got this whole decision to make about enrollment and consolidation. And that's a school committee decision. That is not a school building committee decision. So there's really a decision to be done in tandem. What's the best choice educationally to go along with what's the best choice from a construction standpoint? And we marry those two things up around the middle of the blue line there in that PSR report where we go from the many to the few options back down to the one. And you know, we'll talk a little bit more about communication in a second, but one of the things that's paramount throughout this is lots of different community and public meetings along the way to keep folks informed so that this committee can react to feedback, making sure that the process is open and transparent.
Next slide there. So this slide shows this funnel that represents the options analysis and how that works. So the MSBA process requires you to present options for a renovation, new construction in different locations on the site, or perhaps other site locations for each enrollment option. So that's what this funnel starts out wide. You have lots of options. And then you as a committee, you come up with criteria against which to weigh those options. And your criteria may be, it's got to be super budget conscious. And all those options will be looked at and said, well, this costs approximately this kind of money, this type of construction costs this kind of money, and so they'll have relative costs on them. All those options will. So Northborough's criteria, maybe it's which is the one that has the least impact on the learning environment during the project, or schedule, which is the one that's done quickest. Whatever the criteria is that Northborough develops, of course with the help of the team, but it's your decision what that criteria will be. So with that criteria, the funnel gets narrower. The options list gets narrowed down to a short list, and then ultimately down to the preferred solution. And with that preferred solution, the determination is by the committee that that is the fiscally responsible, educationally appropriate solution. That is what that preferred solution is. Next slide, please. This is a chart that is the transparent document that shows that analysis. So across the top, these are an example of site option locations. And down this column here is the criteria, and the legend happens to be, which is shown here.
Mike.
Sorry, I speak so loud, I think I don't need it, right? So the legend's over here. On the red, you can see that is not favorable. No, you can see the legend says that it's not favorable. The green is favorable. You can see that the first few options have far more red than the options do over here. And you could pick from one to say this one based on the criteria and perhaps the weighting of the criteria, exactly which one comes out to be the preferred solution. And this is a document that's later on, someone will say, well, geez, did you look at this? Well, we did, and this is the document. It has all of it right here. Criteria selected by Northborough and all the different site options that were looked at, and that's how we came up with our preferred solution.
So another big part of the management approach is how do you deal with cost control? Obviously, probably the single biggest issue when people say, I don't care what you're doing, what's it going to cost me, right? So the reality here is the minute the first number gets out there, boy, it better be close, because that number is going to be all over the internet, you know, on people's Facebook pages, it's all over the place, right? So we want to make sure that we're setting realistic budgets from the beginning, and we set the expectations with the designer of having to do a really cost-effective building. The reality is that we're going to work hard on the educational program. The educational program drives the square footage. The square footage drives the cost. So at the end of the day, it's, you know, we want to make sure that folks understand the logic through that. We want to maximize the lessons learned that lessons from all of the other elementary school projects that we've done, especially the most recent ones in this post-COVID market. Now that the inflation, we've suffered some really high inflation, but now the markets are leveling out a little bit. We want to make sure that we're not being so conservative that we end up with a project budget that's so scary that people just say no before it even gets started. Our goal is to actively track down the risks, before they become surprises to the project. Next slide. A big part of that is community engagement, and we can't say enough about this. Early and often, or very early on, we need to develop what's the best strategy to communicate and educate the community in Northborough. We want to have opportunities to provide, timely opportunities to provide feedback. In Situate, an elementary school that we have that's about to go to bid, one of the single most important things that I think happened in that process in getting that project approved is we had a gentleman from the Capital Planning Committee who was on the Greater Building Committee, and he sat across from me for 3 or 4 meetings with his arms folded. Was not engaging, was just, this is too expensive, we can't do this. But through sitting there and listening and inviting some folks into the process who, maybe weren't as convinced that there was a need, he learned, he realized that the project wasn't building the Taj Mahal, one of our favorite comments we hear all the time, and really became one of the best proponents for the project. Because when the group of naysayers got up, he would say, no, I'm one of you. I'm here to really watch the dollars, and I can tell you that the decisions they're making are really smart, and here's the logic, and he really became one of the best, advocates for the project. How do we communicate? A couple of great ideas on the right here. We've used a firm called Cartoon EDU. They provide some great videos online. People's attention span is short. We have a 7.5 minute video that we did in Situate, broke it down into little 1.5-minute bites that can be sent out. School email, town email. What's the MSBA feasibility process? What's the design? What's the schematic? What's it going to cost me? All of those things out there. Also, too, we believe, meet the community where they are. If you've got folks that speak other languages in the town, we can do the advertisements for meetings in that. We can put out any of the printed information that way as well. Just making sure that we're being as open and inclusive as we can. We're trying to get the info out there.
So OPM project accounting at Vertex is a set of best practices that we put in place for each of our projects. We will monthly, collect and review all of the vendor invoices against the contracts that we have in place and the project budget that we have, and then we'll package them all up along with updated budget reports, including reports of the budget status, the major contracts on the project, any budget transfers, any usage of contingency, and present that to the building committee for your review and recommendation to the town to pay those invoices. We will submit your monthly MSBA reimbursements in the MSBA's ProPay system, and then we'll review and report on the audit results from each reimbursement request. Our experience with this is pretty deep. We've submitted to date over $1.6 billion in cost to the MSBA on over 64 projects that we've worked on with them. Simply put, we watch your money, we report transparently, help you maximize your reimbursement, and keep money flowing back into the project.
As your construction site manager, I'm on site every day. I like to say that I'm your eyes and ears on the project. I'm your boots on the ground. I walk the project site multiple times a day. I keep track of everything that's going on, things that we're planning for the week, things that we're planning for the day. I try to get in front of any issues that might pop up before they become issues. I file a daily report on Rakin, which is shown here. I keep track of all the vendors on site, all the subcontractors, any issues that pop up, any work that's being done, any work that's not being done for any reason. I record that in the daily report. That's available to you if you guys so desire. And yeah, I keep an eye on the mock-ups, the third-party testing, and the commissioning as we get towards the end of the project.
On all of our projects, we do like to take the opportunity to work with the students and make sure they know what we're doing on site. So these are a couple examples of some of my coworkers working with students. We have George talking about geothermal to elementary school students, Emily at a middle school career fair talking about construction administration, and then on the bottom we have Bob working with first graders, kind of getting a hands-on experience with some of the materials that are on site. Next slide. The final step of our management approach is the transition. Last year, we were showcased at the MSBA for the story of a building about effective project closeout. Another thing we do in our transition is we maintain a transition schedule that covers all of the critical milestones for the move, FF&E, and technology installation at the school. So we make sure everybody knows what's going on, when things are going to be delivered, and the space is ready for teachers when they move in. Once the teachers move in, we're still not done with the management. We make sure that the teachers understand the space and start to understand the warranties, and I'm going to turn it over to Steve.
Last bullet point on this slide is just critical, because after the move-in, what's important is to educate everybody how the building works so that they know that for example, if they open windows, that may affect the HVAC system. It may use more energy and all that, and that's just different from what they've seen before, likely. So that's a critical component to the management and the move-in of the buildings, to educate everybody as to how the building works. Next slide, please. Lead knowledge. So the MSBA changed how the lead works and the reimbursement, and that's tricky, because now lead silver is the standard, above which, if you go into the specialized opt-in energy code, that's when you can get additional reimbursement points. And that opt-in energy code is tricky to do because it triggers a lot of different things, and not many projects have gone through it. We've had 2 projects go through it. We've got some good lessons learned from it as they still figure out how to implement that code, because it's brand new. The opt-in energy code is brand new. The challenge with the reimbursement is it is expensive to add some of those systems, so your capital cost, your initial cost is higher. Sometimes the audience doesn't want to hear, but our reimbursement is higher too, because they hear that number and so there's a bit there to work out. Our job will be, as a project team, educate you as to how all this works and let you guys figure out exactly how you want to go forward with the project along these lines with the lead. It's tricky, but we can, as part of the project team, bring you right through all the details and work through it. Next slide, please. As an example, addition renovation projects, what we've done with that on lead is pursue lead on additions only, but not on the renovation component, and we've worked out strategies to do that so we can achieve that on lead projects. On the renovation components, we'll look to strive for EUI reduction on the renovation side, provide code-compliant products. It's all stretch code compliant, that approach is, but it also gives you a path for LEED certification. Next slide. Life cycle cost analysis. this is a critically important component, and that it doesn't often get the attention it deserves. So when this report comes out, which expresses what the anticipated utility consumption is going to be for the building, it usually comes out just in time to file a report, instead of having an opportunity to review it and say, what are the assumptions for utilities? What are the assumptions for building usage, to make sure that aligns properly with what the expectations are of you guys for using this building? Because if it is saying, let's say it's shuts the building down at 3 p.m. every day, when realistically that isn't going to be what happens, you want to have a good, accurate life cycle cost analysis so you can project that budget for the next year properly. It's a new building, it's more efficient than the old building, or it's a renovated building more efficient than the pre-renovated building, but it still has requirements like fresh air that cost more money to do. Next slide. Building commissioning. Great program by the MSBA. We've got 1 minute, John. MSBA program is great for that. 1 minute, okay. What the MSBA commissioning does not do is provide total building integration, and that's a critical thing, and we as OPMs have brought a program forward that does total building integration. Next slide, please. What building integration does, like the first graph shown here, the black is the performance of a classroom and the heat coming up, whereas the blue, if you can see that, is the design. So what the intended design. What commissioning doesn't do is see the lack of performance. What this enhanced program that we bring in and consultant we bring in, it makes sure those are aligned so you get exactly the performance and the energy consumption that you want.
Just the second point, as you can see, the second graph that IDS from a project they showed is, you can see what the green is what was supposed to be happening with the power consumption, and there were spikes. And what were the spikes from? The spikes were from a fan that was operating all night long. Unless you monitor late, you're never going to know that. Okay,
You're on time, yes.
Can I do the wrap up? Or do you want to go to questions?
There may be time, we have a 15-minute allotment for questions. We only have 3 questions, so there may be time for some final remarks in your Q&A period.
Sounds great.
So if we could reset the clock at 15 minutes.
I don't know if you could tell we were rushing at the end.
Okay. So have you ever experienced a failed building vote?
Yes.
Town vote, and what role did the OPM play in that process? And what lessons can be drawn from a failed vote?
Lessons learned. Dedham. So we had, so about 2 years ago, we were chosen with 3 different teams to be the OPM for an elementary school in Situate, an elementary school in Stoughton, and an elementary school in Dedham. Situate, right through first time, no issue. Stoughton, made it through town meeting, failed at the ballot, came back a year later, just voted back in, moving ahead with that. Dedham, failed outright. Consensus was terrible, just a real lack of consensus. And it was really difficult because it was, the committee did yeoman's work. I mean, really tried hard. But at the end of the day, I think the committee could have been served better by having some different opinions on the committee. Someone to bring up those dissenting views, to really kind of hash those out. At the end of the day, elementary schools are the hardest schools to get approved, because if you're sticking with a neighborhood school, it's not like you can say it's the high school and everyone goes there. If it's a neighborhood school, it's a little bit harder. If you consider the consolidation and every 3rd through 5th grader is going to go to the school, well, there's a little bit more buy-in there, right? So it's kind of stages. So, I'm not saying make your decision based on what's likely to be voted, but it does have to play into the discussion, because small neighborhood schools benefit the smallest number. And if you're going to go with a small neighborhood school, I think there really has to be a commitment to the district to show how, you develop this ed program for an elementary school. How are you going to get that ed program working in the other places who don't have the new library or the new, new STEM room or those sorts of things? To show that commitment kind of across district. Hey, we're bringing it up. So when we talk about Situate as an example, superintendent did great work of highlighting all the money that's being spent in the other schools. Hey, we need to do this. We're closed. They closed what they combined 2 elementary schools into the one that's about to start. Still left 2 other elementary schools. So hey, here's what we've done in those 2 other schools, and here's what we commit to doing moving forward with that ongoing kind of capital budget. So again, back to your question, I think the single biggest thing would be to get that difference of opinion in the room so that you really can hammer out what those issues are. There will always be people who will just be no. These buildings are the most expensive we have ever seen. But if you wait, guess what? They're only going to get more expensive. So it's really a combining education with proving and showing the need. Take people through this thing and show them how bad it is over and over. In Dedham, they did it. They did. I mean, we walked through that building so many times, but in the end, there was still a real difference between the folks who wanted to keep the neighborhood schools versus the people who wanted to do the more cost-effective combination. And it just was, and it was close.
It's a very similar scenario to what we might be facing.
So it's part of it, but then it worked in Situate and it worked in Stoughton.
With the same kind of.
Same sort of thing. And as you saw those charts with all the enrollment studies, the majority of those were consolidations. Schools closed in those. When we worked in Wellesley, you know, one of my coworkers, you would have sworn kids were going to be, you know, hit and killed crossing Route 9 every day, because that was the story that the opposition said. In the end, the school closed. Closing a school is hard. It's hard. There's an identity there. So really what the group can do is really try to make sure that community who's losing their school is really tied into the new school. It comes down to how you name it even as a project when we talk about it, right? And that's, you know, those are kind of the lessons learned that we can bring to the table so that folks feel like, yeah, I may be losing my school, but I'm not losing my identity, right? So.
Thank you. Thank you. Sean?
Could I ask
Yes,
a
Greg.
clarifying question? So you talked about, you know, the building committee having a wider, you know, voice in terms of the yeses and nos, but what can the OPM do in terms of getting to a consensus around what a community can support? I know you mentioned that great configuration is the school committee question.
Right.
But it's really a town question. So what does the OPM do?
Yeah, it's really
to get to help us.
So it's a great question, because we really were just dealing with that the other night. I wasn't at the meeting, but the PX was telling me about it in Marlboro. Really, you ended up with the school staff on one side and the city staff on the other, and really, well, no, it's got to be about this. Well, no, it has to be about that. It can be about both. And really, what we do is kind of play the arbiter and say, okay, time out. Let's look and reframe this so that we're not talking about, that's why this takes 2 years, right? The idea is you're supposed to go through it and vet it, have folks see both sides of the issue, and that's really where we come in. And working with, again, choosing, as Steve hit on earlier, again, you only get 3 of the 13 votes about who the designer is, right, on the designer selection panel, but really looking through those firms and see who's done this. You know, do you want necessarily a designer that's just done high schools? No, you want the ones who've gotten dirty with this elementary through middle school, these tough situations, because it's all about getting the team, delivering the message, and continuing to deliver the message. In Marlboro, you know, we've had to kind of take them, and we were told, take us and drag us, bring us there, because folks, you know, there was hesitancy a little bit with some of it, and it's working out great. So we are going to do whatever you feel you need. If you need us a little more passive, that's great. You need us more active, we're right there. In the end, it's your project, and we never want to take that away from you. But again, you know, we don't do this just to work with you for 2 years. We want to work with you for 5, right? So, and that means opening the door to something, you know, eventually.
Thank you. Sean?
Okay. Tell us about a time when you struggled with a building project. How did you resolve conflicts with any of the parties involved?
Conflict is inherent to anything in construction, right? No matter what the job is, no matter who's on it, it's construction, there are always going to be issues. I think for us, we've always taken the approach, reserving your rights and waiting to fight till later is not the way to do it, right? At the end of the day, deal with it up front, be open about it. If anything comes up, the worst thing we can do is not tell you about it, first of all, right? It's to get it up there, get it out, and, really vet it. I mean, we have, I've been doing this for 30 years, Steve's been doing it for 30 years, Alan's been doing it for 25 years. Like, there's a lot of experience there, and it's really hit it head on, make sure that we have a good set of plans and specifications, make sure they're as tight as they can be, make sure we have a good contract, a contract that talks about things like, delays and tariffs and all of those things. It just helps set up the framework, so that folks know what they're getting into. If we do a renovation, or an ad reno to the building, there's some really in-depth phasing that has to go on. It's got to be pretty detailed. We got to make sure that's all vetted so that we take as much of the unknowns out of the process as we can. Does that mean we won't rip up a floor at some point and find a buried utility? Of course it doesn't. It's Murphy's Law, right? There's going to be something. This room is built, we take down 3 of the walls, they're framed one way, this wall's framed a different way. It's just the way that stuff happens. So it's really being flexible. And as Steve talked about that Project Ego, we want a collaborative. I mean, it sounds fairy tale-ish, but really our most successful projects are the ones where we have a good relationship. At the end, are we going to disagree with the builder and the designer and sometimes the owner? Yeah, but at the end of the day, we want to give you the info to help make decisions and get through any of these pain points. Waiting to the end to deal with a bunch of lawyers is not a good thing.
Thank you. Lauren?
What challenges do you foresee in the next year or two that are specific to school building projects, and how would you plan to address these challenges?
It's easy. It's money, right? The dollars are scaring people. The economy's a bit of a crazy right now. I will say, if you're bidding projects right now, the bids are coming in lower. Like, we are set to probably, on Situate, come in $8 to $10 million under where we are because of where the market is right now. So really the biggest challenge is understanding where the market is, so that a year and a half from now, when we are coming up with that budget that goes to the MSBA, thank you, that budget that goes to the MSBA, we're confident that that number is conservative enough to get us through the next year of design and then get into the building and purchasing everything, but not so high that people go, can't afford this. Additionally, I think these days we really have to think about all solutions. Renovations are historically not always the most cost effective because it usually will require moving of students, and that moving of students is not reimbursed by the MSBA. So it's another cost that Northborough will bear more of. But in the end, overall, that might be the decision, right? So it's a much harder look now at renovation because I think, again, our school in Hopkinton, we just bid that, came in, it was estimated at 118, big school, almost 1,000 kids, came in at 102, $16 million under. Phenomenal, super efficient design, square, like no wasted space. So I think that really has to be a focus so that you can convince, anybody sees a curved wall or fancy glass these days in these conditions, think, oh, that's too fancy. Now, again, you want something to not just be a brown brick box, right? And you want it to improve the education delivery for all of you, for all your staff, but you have to find that balance. And that's, I think, the most important thing right now, because until we get a little more normalcy, it's how do we deal with that volatility. But the good news is, deal with it. This is a great opportunity from the MSBA. You have to stress that, because in the end, if you don't move ahead, it's double-digit millions of dollars that you don't know if you don't pass it. There's no guarantee when Northborough will get the invitation again, and you all know how long it took to get to this point. When you submitted the SOI, when you went through eligibility, when you were told you could go get an OPM, it's years. It's years to get here. It's another couple of years to get to a vote, and then it's another 3 years to build it. So, it's just time, and the more time that goes by, money goes by.
Thank you. How are we doing on time?
2 minutes.
We have 2 minutes. I would invite any final thoughts from our presenters.
Awesome.
Or any last questions from this body? Any final words?
So, why us? I think we've got proven leadership in this marketplace. We've done more elementary schools than any other types of building. While we have done middle schools, we've done high schools, we've done middle high schools, we've done charter schools. We've done soon approaching 20 elementary schools, between 15 and 20. I'm not quite sure what the exact number is if you include our renovation jobs as well, non-MSBA. But, we feel really comfortable in that space. We, feel like if you ask any of our clients, and, as Steve, I think a couple of the projects he talked about, very important, on time, under budget. Sometimes we have challenges on projects. Sometimes the schedule moves for certain things that are out of control, out of our control. But the lion's share of our projects are on time, and all of them are under budget. We have not had to go back, even through COVID, to ask cities and towns for more money. That 3011 comes out and gets published. That's gospel. We have to stick to that, because these days getting public money is hard enough. Never mind going back and say, oops, we needed some more money. That's not where we're going to go. Again, we've got in-house capabilities, I think, that offer the town, a depth and breadth of, great depth and breadth of resources. And I think, as I alluded to earlier, we don't get a DCAM evaluation. We don't get an update on the state's website for designers. All we get is the phone call to the neighboring superintendent, the neighboring town manager. And I would please call our past clients, and they'll tell you that, they enjoy working with us, and a lot of them have had us back for subsequent projects. So with that, I thank you all for your time tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right.
All good?
Yes, we're good. I think you've left a copy of your.
I have extras if you need them.
Okay, good.
Do you want any extras?
We'll take extras.
You want to take them? Okay.
And then I'll have Keith show you out. The library is a different building from when you entered, because I see they have vacuumed and lights are off, so don't get scared.
Okay.
Keith.
I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Why don't we do a 2-minute recess for bathroom and water, and then when we reconvene, we'll have about 5 minutes to finish our scoring, and then those need to get turned in. Thank you very much. unless, if you have a specific question now, we can, go through it, but I think the scores will kind of speak for themselves. You're fine, it's okay.
No pressure.
It's your last exam of the day, so.
That's the nice thing.
That's Lauren. The last one I handed you was Kevin.
So, do you
We do need names.
Oh, I didn't do my name.
We put your name, yep.
Okay.
And then the first one I gave you was Erica.
Hmm.
Sign the names on each one.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, then you can score it.
Okay.
Yes. do some jumping jacks in between sections so she knows when to listen again. Jumping jacks. Yes, he's got an auto-calculating little spreadsheet. He's high-tech. Thank you. So. It's like a fair process. I mean, I think everybody's gone through and after the interviews, just stay consistently, we ask the same questions. Yeah, right, yes, yes. Oh, sorry. Oh, was that you?
That was me,
Yeah.
sorry.
Good tells me that it's a tough sell.
Properly, we call it properly.
I just can't see the neighbors and the other people that became up properly. As a neighborhood school.
Make it a playground, call it a thing. Add a couple fields and a playground and you're good to go.
Big playground if you take this to the school. Take the school down.
Yeah. This was the playground. Or whatever.
Right.
Find something.
All right, so all the scores have been turned in at this point, correct?
Yes, now I just have to do the.
And Rebecca will aggregate and also, Mike, what's the status on? Okay. So I did, in preparation for this meeting, so we've now moved to the deliberation phase, which is item 3 on our short agenda tonight. I did look up some Panda jokes because I thought we might need to lighten the mood, and we are talking about Peaslee. But I think a lot of them were either very intuitive or not really appropriate for tonight. But I did have one, which is, what do you call a panda bear with no teeth?
Gummy bear.
Yes. Okay,
Oh.
good. Rob
I
has
have
young
kids, I'm
children.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
he has
gonna ruin all
kids.
your
Okay,
jokes. I
yeah.
have kids, sorry.
But it is a gummy bear.
I can step
Yep.
out if you'd like.
I probably should have brought some gummy bears, just everybody's blood sugar can, but thank you all for your patience tonight, and that was a long process. So we are 53 minutes ahead of when we must, I promised the good folks at our library that we would vacate the premises by 10 o'clock. So what we'll do next is, once the scores are aggregated, you can, Rebecca will read them and you can record them in your notes. At that point, this committee is charged with making a selection. And so I would entertain a motion for a prevailing firm that could be seconded and discussed.
I'm doing the online people now, so
Okay, so we'll give you another couple minutes, yeah, with a little
More
Jeopardy
jokes,
music.
more jokes.
I think we can give Becky some space. 'cause
Yes,
this-
okay,
this has gone
Tristan,
very,
hold up,
very well for
Tristan,
my
hold your
client.
1 minute timer up.
No, I like, this was a very smooth process tonight. So in terms of getting everybody through, being efficient with the committee's time, so thank you everyone for your
Yeah.
participation.
Well organized, tech was good.
Good.
Well,
It was.
eventually.
It was. I
Yes.
think in this space, I think
Yeah.
tech, just the environment that
What's
tech
the scale?
contributed to
We need to know the
was
scale.
better.
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10,
Scale of
yes.
1 to 10, what would you give that?
Ooh, I'm gonna go tech 8.
But thank goodness we had the support to work out and we were ahead of time. That was a big thing to work out. Michael, you're here with us in spirit.
Yes. I assume my recordings on the Excel file got through to Becky good. So
Yes, yep. Thank you for hanging in there. I'm out of jokes. I just, don't have any more.
I'm impressed that you came with one.
Yeah, I did come with a joke. I'll be on the hunt for more panda jokes, so.
Seems like a chat GPT.
It does seem, I should have asked ChatGPT, yeah.
Are you here every Monday night?
Yeah, yes, yeah, I'm here every Monday night, yeah.
Tip your waiter.
Yep. Crickets.
Erica, for clarity, so whoever has the highest score, we have to choose them.
My understanding is of following the process, yes, unless there's some kind of recalculation
Okay.
or other action that takes
I just
place.
didn't know if there's gonna be like a lot of deliberation after we get the scores, or whether it's just gonna be presented. Okay.
Depends on if it's a tie or like a 1-point margin or something.
Right.
I suspect it's a while.
The firm with the highest ranking, average ranking is Vertex at 60.25. PMA is next at 59.5, and then Colliers at 54.06.
Can you say those one more time, please?
Oh, Diana, did I don't have your scores?
I handed them in.
I just realized that.
Oh dear.
Check for
Wow.
hanging chad. Hanging chad, maybe, yeah.
It's always chat.
Should we come back in half an hour or something?
Well, that's like a lot of math.
Would you be able to identify yours? Does yours have your name on it?
Oh, I'm sorry, I might have collected it before the name was on, I'm sorry.
I can show you mine.
Yeah.
It'll be beautiful architecture.
first look, second
Yeah.
look, this time. Ooh. Yeah.
Ready? Okay. Thanks everyone for your patience. So we're reconvening now. So we'll read off the scores. Can you read the firm and the score in descending order?
Okay, so I will go with our first firm that we interviewed, which was Colliers. Their average ranking was 59.06. The second firm was PMA Consultants, and their ranking was 65.5. And the last firm was Vertex, and their ranking was 65.56.
Kevin said this was, Kevin said unless there's a.
We're close.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Okay, so we need a motion on the table to have discussion.
I move that we have a discussion before we make a motion to vote.
Okay, we can build some consensus and then I'll call for a motion. Any recommendation from staff on, it's a very close,
Can I
Yes.
ask whether all the references were checked prior to tonight? I know I did get a couple for PMA. I wasn't sure about the other two firms.
I made a couple calls for Colliers, but haven't received any
Okay.
return calls back.
So that would be the only thing that we do have some reference checks on PMA. We do not have them on the other two firms. That would just be the other.
Yeah, I made the call on PMA. One question I have is, am I allowed to ask a question?
yes.
I mean, in the world of public bid, sometimes you shortlist and then if there's a tie, then you just vote on the tie.
That is an option that we could, because they are so close. I mean, the percentage is 600. Yes.
No, I would not be opposed to proceeding that way.
I just don't know if that's,
Okay.
I don't know the board.
Procedurally, right, we need to
Procedurally.
do this correct.
We just need to be able to justify to MSBA why we're selecting the firm that we are selecting. So if we do select PMA, while there is a small percentage difference, we just need to be able to justify our rationale behind that.
Or we just go with it. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we need to do that. It's only, I'm just raising that as an option.
So there is a possibility, so we're down to two firms. I think that was clear from the group here. We have 8 voting members here tonight with us. And in spirit, digitally, Michael. So it is possible to call for a vote on the two committees, on the two OPMs.
So the other, can I just
Yes.
add a third option? You could remove any ex officio's rankings and tally based on just voting members to see what
Yep.
those tallies are.
Yep. So we have 2 suggestions, or 2 options so far. One is to vote on the scores as ranked, and the other is to remove some of the scores for ex officio and just let the vote stand for voting members. There are considerations with both. I think for the purpose of the narrative that we need to provide to MSBA, as long as we can explain and justify the rationale. I think we left some discretion in our RFS document to be able to include ex officio, and the rationale at that time was that our ex officio members are working closely with the OPM firms, so their input on scoring would be important. So, any other thoughts? Yes.
So I'm just curious if we can talk about strengths and weaknesses in these two firms and then vote based on discussion, not just score.
It is possible, and it won't change the scores we've given, right? So,
Correct.
yeah.
But it could direct our path forward if we wanted to proceed that way.
Could I explain my rationale around
Yes.
using ex officios? That typically I would not make that recommendation. However, I feel that this committee in particular has a lot of expertise in OPM construction architecture. This is a unique committee from other building committees that I've been an ex officio on, and feel as though the expertise that sits on this committee, even without the ex officios, is really solid. And therefore that would be my rationale to exclude the ex officios.
It would be an interesting data point, whether or not we voted on it, to see what the voting members' scores were and if they differed, or maybe they result in a tie as well.
I don't think we can make the choice based on the outcome, because that's kind of
Yep.
manipulating the outcome. I think as a committee, we have to decide first, what is the right way to proceed? Whether we want to keep it without the ex officio members, which would be allowed to vote, or whether we keep it, the group as a whole, have a discussion, essentially because we have a statistical tie, and discuss strengths and weaknesses, and then how would we then vote? Would it be
Well, a motion, there would be a
roll call
motion.
vote, or?
Yes, there'd be a roll call vote. There has to be on any motion. It would be a motion for a particular firm, seconded, and then some discussion. And then by roll call, you would vote that up or down.
So we wouldn't be scoring essentially again, it would be a motion on one of the firms to approve them.
Right, and then another option is to rescore the two firms.
So I guess, stepping away from the procedural
Yep.
aspect for a minute and thinking about the ex officio option, there is something appealing about that to me in that, and I appreciate your comments about the committee, I think discussion is going to be messy because we've all reviewed 10 of these books. We've sort of discussed around those a little bit. We've now had 3 interviews. People have presented different topics in different ways, in different qualities, levels of quality. They've made different points about different things at the end of the interviews. So we have this sort of melange of information from all of them at this point. So I feel like, I guess I'm kind of where I was in our previous decision-making, where I'm trying to keep the information we have for selection kind of parallel, objective, if you will. And so I'm concerned that if we go into discussion about the two firms, we may spend an hour and a half doing that and getting to a point and making a motion, and then we're all gonna be sort of in a weird spot with where that lands. And we might have a tie again. So I guess with that, I personally am thinking that the ex officio option might be a preferable path. So I'm happy to make a motion that we consider that, but I don't know if others are ready to consider that motion yet.
I would contend when we had the 10, when we did the selection, there were a couple of them that were, in effect, were ties. It was close. And we just decided that the process was strong enough to move forward with the top three. So now we had the top three, we all heard the presentations. Again, it was close, but following the same process, we have a winner. So everything's consistent all the way through.
All right, well, at this point, we could have a motion, there's an option to have a motion for a procedural course of action, which could then be discussed.
So there are two options.
So there are two options, and either one could be moved for discussion and voted up or down, which would be a procedural step. And by the will of the voting members here, we could decide on the process and then execute it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with some of the comments on the ex officio members and kind of deferring to, there are quite a few members on the, voting members on the committee that have experience with these firms. So I think that's one of the reasons that we're here and why we were selected for this committee, is to bring our views and our experience and interpretations of the presentations as given, and picking the team that we would like to work with. So I would support that.
All right, is there a motion on that? Would someone like to make a motion?
I move that we, I'm not quite sure how to word this.
Take a whack at it. Our fabulous, our fabulous staff in the office, Mariana, does a very good job of reading through our, listening through a lot of minutes and coming up with the, yes.
For the purposes of addressing the very close tally of our finalists, that we revisit the vote, we retally the votes without including the ex officio contributions to the tally.
There's been a motion on the table to remove the ex officio scoring and retally the votes as a final determining. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Now is the time for discussion.
So question.
Yes.
Who are, just for clarification, who are the ex officios who voted who scored, but now won't be included in the scoring to try and determine the top,
Yep.
or more definite top firm?
So those were Greg, Keith, Jason Little, and then also me.
There are 4.
Okay. And out of those 4, are any of those 4 also voting members?
No.
Okay.
Kevin?
And who voted on the original 10? Did the ex officios, were they included in the
Yes.
original 10 votes? Okay.
Yes.
Not
the votes,
Keith.
but the calculations.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there any other discussion?
I think I'm against it also. I think changing the rules at this point in time don't make sense. I'd rather stick with the scores as they are, to your point, even if they're close. Unless it said somewhere on some document, if you're within 1 point, 2 points, half a point, then you need to do something. Other than that, we have a winner.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I'm just very torn. I'm very torn. I feel like we will get, I feel like there will be a very different result. I think it just, like, the perspectives of everyone, including admin, I think is important. But I don't know, man, 600th of a point, is that true? Did I write that down right?
600th of a point, I think so.
And can you just tell me, I mean, I was writing whole numbers, how did you get in the hundredths? Was there?
It's, I just have it out by 2 decimal spots.
So were people writing decimals? or that's just?
No,
how
Yeah.
it's the average, it's the average ranking, so it's.
Oh, I see, okay. Okay, yeah, I'm really torn.
Mike, two things, Mike, I'll call on you, and also, can you hear us? How's the audio?
I can hear you all okay.
Okay, good, yes, Mike? Do you have a comment?
No, I mean, it would be an interesting data point. I understand if we can't maybe make a definite decision. I mean, I just in general, and right, I'm coming from a different type of committee or board where we wouldn't do anything like this without discussion. You know, we wouldn't maybe just take a raw score that's that close and be like, that's the winner. So I think there definitely needs to be open discussion about why one is preferred over the other for a project like this. I know that may not, you know, I've never worked on a school building MSBA project before, so maybe that's out of bounds, but I don't know how we don't have an open discussion on a decision point like this. I mean, especially with those scores that close. It's subjective, what's close and what's not, but that's really close. So to me, I would prefer some level of discussion. Where we don't want to go till midnight, obviously, but you know, I would be interested in knowing what the scores of the voting members were, and I guess I wasn't aware that voting members would be scoring in this decision. That maybe it would have been a better decision, or maybe in hindsight, the decision point would have been just to have voting members do the scoring because we're the ones who have to really make the decision, right?
Yeah, and I'll just, I think you brought up something valuable from when the committee first formed, and one of the tasks was to create the request for services. So we are following a very closely prescribed course of action. And so by our, you know, MSBA approved metrics and procedure, we're relying on scoring from this body. So we've resulted in essentially what is a tie. And so there's a motion on the table to create a procedure, which is to remove ex officio scores. And perhaps your intent, yes, go ahead, Greg.
Just add to the discussion, so choosing to round to a decimal is a choice.
Yep.
If you look at the holistic score, it's a tie. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Round to the wholest number and it's tied.
Yep.
So I think that, you know, I think then that allows for a conversation around the two top firms, which is a tie.
Yep.
The score was 0.5 and 0.56?
Yeah.
Wasn't
Yeah.
5.6 round up to 6?
So if I eliminate any decimals, it's 66 and 66.
Oh, that one got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all, okay.
Yes.
Where we choose to round, okay.
So I would entertain further discussion. We do have a motion on the table now to remove ex officio scores, which would yield new scores, which presumably, statistically, would not result in a tie, although never say never. And I think Kevin was the person who said the T word before, so
Yeah, I did this
tie.
myself.
Yep, so
Sorry.
thank you, Kevin. Is there any further discussion on the motion, which is to remove the ex officio rankings?
I think, I mean, that's one avenue. The other avenue is a tiebreaker, which probably didn't spell this out. You know, in case of a tie, here would be a procedure. This is one avenue. The other would be that we then, you know, discuss the top two, and then possibly rescore them individually.
Well,
I think the challenge in
that.
Well,
I think the challenge in rescoring them individually is that's essentially a vote. You're going to get a yes this one or no this one in any permutation of that data set.
Yes, Kevin?
If we're changing the rules or whatever, not to bring this up now, but right? The number of points you choose to attribute to each one of these categories is no longer unbiased at this point. I could choose to do 0, 0, 0, and 10, 10, 10, right? To really make my 10s count really strongly against all my zeros. So maybe we need to just have everyone choose their number one choice, write it on a piece of paper, and move forward with that.
Well, I assume if we're gonna narrow them down to 2, and again, I'm going back to just like the public bidding world, if you're just narrowing down to the top 2, then you're just choosing between A or B, end of story. You're not doing it like through all the categories again.
Right, okay.
So it's not that you're changing the rules, it's you've moved to a different sort of stage in the selection process.
Okay, so if we're down to 2, then let's just, everyone gets to choose.
Well, we have to back up. We're still in the middle of discussion on
Okay.
whether or not we're gonna try the statistical. So technically, we need to vote on that in order to move on to anything else. Because I think some of us are still interested in that option as opposed to more discussion. And actually, I just wanna know, if we do vote, are we still an even number? Because we could still tie if we all discuss and vote.
So, for the minutes, there are 8 voting members of the committee who are participating in this meeting right now.
So that's
So we could
my
still
final
have
piece
tie.
of discussion in this particular discussion. Keep that in mind. If we vote against the ex officio option, we may be going to a discussion which we could then have a tie as a result.
Well, I am kind of curious, right? So if we're essentially rounding up and now we're tied, pulling out the ex officios, we didn't do that before, and that was part of the instruction. So that would be changing the rules to create a new data point to try and make a decision over. I mean, and I know we have to get to that motion, but I'm just kind of curious, like, if there were voting members or people who, you know, where Collier's was maybe their number one, and now it's not. So now we're choosing between these two. Like, I'm just kind of curious what a straw poll of the 8 voting members would be between PMA and Vertex. If it's 7-1, yes, let's have discussion. But to me, that seems fairly straightforward. You know, if we're tied 4-4, then, you know, we may need to go to other data points to break a tie. But, you know, amongst the voting members, we ended up with a tie. If there's a decisive majority vote for one or the other, you know, after discussion, why can't the voting members make that decision?
Thank you. So I think the motion on the table is removing the ex officio members, and could the motion maker just clarify for us, would you then be, are you implying that by removing the ex officio members, whatever the high resulting score is, would then be the chosen prevailing score? Is that the implication of your motion? That's the intent?
That is the intent, correct.
Okay.
And that's following the suggestion of Superintendent Martin that's the idea of.
As an option.
As an option, yes.
So a yes vote on the motion would immediately trigger a rescore, and unless it's another tie, Kevin, a prevailing firm. A no vote on that motion would leave us at a tie, and then there would be a further discussion about how to break that tie.
Right, then we would then be choosing another methodology, which we still have not determined.
Correct. Is there any further input on this motion or what it would result in? Could the motion maker restate the motion, please?
I will do my best.
Word for word.
Although you worded it better after I said it the last time. I am making a motion that we it's too late for me to be making motions.
Deep breath.
I'm making a motion that we revisit the scores without inclusion of the ex officio members of the committee per the superintendent's recommendation, or not recommendation, presentation of such an option. And in doing so, if this motion were to be passed, we would immediately then rescore all of the vote, all of the, I can't do this, all of the votes that were submitted without those 4 votes, those 4 submissions. And at that point, short of another tie, we would have selected the OPM, or we would then have a new OPM that we would then vote to.
Would your motion automatically select that OPM? Or you would then,
we would, the committee would still have to then vote to agree based on what we had said before about the larger process, correct?
The person who seconded the motion, that's your understanding?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is everyone clear on what we're voting on? Mike, yes?
Yes, and basically by the rules we've kind of laid out, by the way that motion is written, if there's, and kind of Erica, from what you had explained earlier, we do have to take an official vote to award the winner, but we should be going by that score, correct?
Yeah, I think it depends on the motion maker's intent. Was your intent, you're saying your intent is not to automatically elect that?
I mean, we can certainly amend the motion to say that if we want to go home 5 minutes earlier. But I think that the original intent was that we all go through the process and then we have that one last opportunity for discussion. And I think that given what we've all gone through, it's appropriate to have that final opportunity for discussion before we finalize the award.
It results in a new score that is hopefully not a tie, which we can then discuss and bring forward a motion to award based on that.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. Okay, good. All right, so I will vote by roll call, and I will do so in alphabetical order according to my little sheet here, which is maybe not in alphabetical order. Okay, so you know what? Here we go. So the motion on the table, everyone's clear. That we're removing ex officio. Lauren Bailey.
Yes.
Mike Tejan.
Aye.
Sean Durkin.
No.
Erica Hall. Yes. Diana Nicholas.
Yes.
Kevin Warsh.
No.
Robert Tomasetti.
Yes.
Tristan Bezin.
Yes.
Okay, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Yes? Yes. All right, so that results by majority vote of this body in a recalculation. Rebecca, do you have a recalculation or?
Just a minute. So we're removing 4 ex officios from the original calculation.
Only taking those scores and dividing that by 8. So the new rankings, well, the revised rankings, I won't say new. Collier's 75, PMA 85, Vertex 84.
All right, everyone heard that? At this time, I would entertain a motion relative to OPM selection.
I can make any motion, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I make a motion that we all just get to write down the name of the firm between PMA and Vertex that you think should win, and put on a piece of paper and hand it in. Everyone, not not excluding the 4.
Okay. You've made a motion, so the motion is that all original parties, ex officio and voting members, write down their preferred firm of the 2. And what?
That's how we select.
And that's how it's selected?
Yep.
Okay.
This seems like a procedural challenge.
Oh, okay. Well,
Well, so first, so there's a motion on the table that all scores are to be collected in writing, and that the result of, and that will yield another data point.
A binding data point?
Is it a binding data point?
No, yours wasn't binding.
Yep.
Well, but you clarified in the discussion that the intent was that that was the score that would be used to select the OPM.
Oh.
Did you not?
The motion was to yield a new data point, which would hopefully not result in a tie.
Right, and then maybe some discussion.
But
I do feel like that final vote.
Can I just
There-
add something?
yes,
I'm
yep.
just afraid that that was not outlined in the RFS, that would be the way that it would be selected. It was going to be based on rankings. I think that moving from everybody to just official members was a valid way to get to that ranking. I just worry that that is not something that was outlined, and that it could, again, I think we could get a challenge on that. And then I would also argue that we need to make sure that we are, when we are submitting this to MSBA, that we can substantiate why we selected this firm and the process.
Can you clarify which part you're concerned about? The removing of the ex officio members,
No,
or
the bat, like the writing down.
the top,
Yeah,
the top 2?
yeah, I think you can, if you wanted to have a vote on one firm over the other, that's gonna give you the same result as writing it down on a piece of paper.
Okay.
But that's just.
Oh, sorry.
There is a motion on the table. It has not been seconded. Is there a second or is there not a second? There's not a second to the motion on the table, so we will not consider it. Rebecca, can you just restate your last point, which was procedural in nature, about our narrative to the MSBA?
So with our narrative, we do need to make sure that we are substantiating why we selected this firm. By using the rankings that we can use, we can say that collectively, we as a group, rated everyone based on their interview and came up with this number. I think if we did it a different way, we would then have to, and had a different firm with, let's say Vertex, even though they were quite lower, we would then have to have a compelling case to the MSBA as to why we selected them when they were not the highest ranked.
All right, it's a lot to digest. Also, I just want to point out, we are
7 minutes.
lucky, well, yes, we are on a clock, the library is watching us. But we're also lucky to have, really 3 excellent firms who came out to talk to us today. And just like with our initial submissions, 10 packets that we went through, if only one had submitted, we would be lucky to partner with any one of those. So we're in a lucky, circumstance right now. We have numbers that are statistically significantly different at this time. Which,
Yeah.
Tristan, then Mike.
So I would like to say, any of the 3 firms that we interviewed tonight, they're all very capable. They have very good experience, and I think they will serve the town well. But I think we have, through sorting sorting through some of the weeds here, I think we do have enough of a difference now that emerges with this ranking to be able to put a motion on the table to move this forward.
Mike?
Yeah, I was kind of going to say something similar. I think it's, again, small, but now it's not a rounding error, the difference between the number 1 and number 2. If there's, a majority consensus, which we can have discussion on before we vote, right? About, is there a general majority consensus of making a motion on PMA, and then any discussion, like, does anybody have, I guess, strong feelings either way, yay or nay, on PMA, being that they're the top total?
Yeah, you bring up a good point that if a motion were made to identify PMA as the OPM based on rankings, if that motion were seconded, then there would be a chance for a discussion before taking a roll call vote. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded again, that PMA is to be selected as the OPM to enter into the next phase, which is a contract negotiation. Is there any further discussion?
I support this out of the groups here tonight. I felt like they had a very solid team. Their experience and particularly their experience working together was clear to me, where this is a team that knows each other, knows the ins and outs of projects, and I think is someone that would serve the town well, and that myself as a committee member, I would enjoy working with them on the project, so I would support that.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion in the 3 minutes remaining?
My totals lined up kind of similar to how they shook out with all the voting members, with PMA at the top, Vertex close, and then Collier's number 3. I think, as said, all 3 are capable and good companies. PMA, I think, was very direct and clearly, were direct in answering what we were asking, both in the questions provided beforehand and then in the spot questions on. So I would be supportive of voting for this motion.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? And hearing none, there's a motion on the table to select PMA to enter into the next phase of contract negotiations to be the OPM for the Peaslee building project. I'll now call a vote by roll call. Lauren Bailey?
Yes.
Mike Tejan?
Yes.
Sean Durkin?
Yes.
Erica Hall, yes. Diana Nicholas?
Yes.
Kevin Warsh?
Yes.
Robert Tomasetti?
Yes.
Tristan Bezant?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. At this point, is there any new business that will take less than 2 minutes that may properly come before the committee at this time? I will say we will not be meeting tomorrow, so that meeting will be recalled, and there will be no meeting tomorrow as we have no further deliberations. Is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? By roll call, Lauren Bailey.
Yes.
Mike Tejan.
Yes.
Sean Durkin.
Yes.
Yes.
Erica Hall, yes. Diana Nicholas.
Yes.
Kevin Warsh.
Yes.
Robert Tomasetti.
Yes.
Tristan Bezant.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned at 9:59. Thank you.
Wow, perfect. Got it in.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mike.